Good evening, everyone, to the Planning Commission meeting for August 19th.
Turn the volume up.
Sam, can you hear us? Roll call. Hema?
Here.
Johnson? Absent so far. I'm here. Fox?
Here.
Nobach.
Here.
Can I get an approval of the agenda?
I move to approve the agenda.
Second.
Moved by Hema, second by Jesse. To approve the agenda. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. Can I get a motion to approve the minutes from July 8th?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Nobach, second by Hema, to approve the minutes from July 8th. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, the next thing on the agenda is the public input. Everybody that's signed up for this looks like they're signed up to talk about either the track or the church. So that won't be in public input. That'll be during the public hearing. So anybody else wishing to talk on anything other than those two items can step forward now. Otherwise, we'll wait till the public hearing. Okay, so we'll dispense with the public input. Okay, the next item up on the agenda is the vacation of right-of-way for Mr. James Hernke. And I will note that Committee Member Johnson has now arrived, so we have a full slate. So the Zach, if you can fill us in on the vacation application of James Hernke.
Yeah, so the city received an application to vacate an alley. There should be a map of what it specifically is going to be vacated in your packet, but essentially it's the alley between 5th and 4th Street and Ohio and Washington Street. The majority of the residents who live up in that area have signed a petition in favor for the vacation. The alley is a site of a future stormwater project, and currently it acts as a drainage easement for all those lots that are up there. I talked to our city engineer, and he didn't see anything specifically wrong with, vacating that alley, but he did kind of express that we would want to maintain a blanket easement over, I believe it's 16 feet, the width of that alley. But that is kind of some background about it. Happy to answer any questions you have.
So with that, I'll open up the public hearing. Anybody wishing to talk to the vacation of the right-of-way, please step forward to the mic. Second call, anybody wishing to speak on the vacation? Third and last call, anybody wishing to speak on the vacation of the alley for James Hernke? Hearing none, I'm going to close the public hearing. Discussion committee. I've talked to Jim about it, and I lost him in the crowd. And he's aware if it does get vacated, he still has to. We're still going to have a drainage easement through there because in one of our next planning drainage plans, we're going to have to go through there to drain that. So Jim's aware of that, and he has no issues with that part. So I guess, whatever.
Does that easement come with the contingent, like you can't build anything permanent on top of that easement? Jim's aware of that? Okay.
Yeah.
Are we allowed to ask Jim, since he didn't do the public hearing, or are we allowed to ask what you plan on doing with that property? Or anybody else applying?
Jim, you want to step forward?
I'm not going to use it other than the fact I'm probably going to put a carport next to my garage. And with a setback of 5 feet from an alleyway, the carport would be really close to the garage. When the snow comes, it's hard to get 2 to 3 feet to clean the snow between the garage and the carport. So I thought if it was vacated, it would gain a couple extra feet. That was the reason for it. It's wasted land anyway. Nobody's going to use it, but I understand it needs a drain back there because it's a low area, and I accept the easement of doing that.
Okay.
That answer your question?
That's all I had for him.
Anything else?
I have a couple more questions.
Okay.
So does it get split 50-50 then? Property owners split 50-50 on the easement?
That's right, yeah. So Jim would get 8 feet of it. I believe it's 16 feet, 17 feet. So it does go to the adjacent property owner, so that's kind of right down the middle. If you didn't sign for it, then that part won't be vacated, but should be a map that kind of shows exactly in your packet what.
And then, does this end up getting replatted? Does somebody have to come out and survey this and replat it and pay for those services at all? Is the city on the hook for that?
City won't pay for it, but it does need to be brought to the county. Yeah.
So is that on Jim and everybody else that applied? Or who pays, the county pays for it, or? Okay, gotcha. Okay.
Any other questions? Bruce, anything? Well, I'm going to make a motion to approve the vacation.
Second.
Motion by Gesme, second by Johnson to approve the vacation, except for to retain the easement. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay. The next thing we're going to discuss is the lot split for Artisan Plaza. Zach?
Yeah, so the owner of the Artisan Plaza is hoping to split off the northern roughly 26,000 square feet of his property down there off 4th Street. Since the county does maintain control of 4th Street, he had him reach out to the county, and they did approve the access there. Granted, there's pending a couple, I think it's three stipulations that the owner is happy to meet. The new lot, does conform to the B2 standards. And the applicant has also agreed to add 10 new parking spaces to the already existing lot, so it stays in compliance. I added a list of some of the permitted and conditional uses in the B2 zone. So those are some things that could be put on that northern lot, but I believe Kevin he's here if you guys have any questions for the applicant.
Can you come up to the podium, Kevin?
My favorite thing, come up here, right in front of everybody, absolutely. No. I dressed up for it, though.
Do you have a bumper for a 69? No, never mind.
Yeah, I do have a bumper for a 69 Mustang, you bet.
So, I was reading through some of your emails and stuff, and you're proposing to put possibly a drive-through coffee thing in there, shop.
I'd like to, not immediately, but I'd like to do
Talking
that.
like 3-4 years down the road.
Right, yep.
Okay, so, if that doesn't work and you, what, is there something else that maybe you were thinking about doing with that lot?
So you're looking for me to have a plan and a contingent plan?
Well,
I'm lucky just to have a plan.
I'm just looking you in the eye and saying.
No, but
hey,
I figured I have to come back through the city council and planning commission to get it approved anyway, so,
Yeah,
at that time. No, I don't have a contingent plan, no.
but, okay, so,
I don't think that matters.
yeah, but I like talking to Kevin, so.
You guys should come over to the shop sometime, I'll talk to you.
But, Zach, as far as I looked through it and the lot size is, the dimensions are fine to split, right?
At greater than 20,000 feet, width of 80 feet, should be long, and yeah, everything should be in place there. I think the parking spaces were the immediate
Or
worry,
the
but
question.
he's agreed to add 10 new spots. I think.
And then, okay, what was my other question? And I did see, and I think you alluded to it as far as you're probably gonna have to move the driveway
Yes,
north,
yes,
and then that driveway will split the properties, right?
right, it'll split the properties, yep. But I won't do that till I figure out exactly what's gonna go in there.
So, and then,
But-
say someday you sell one part or the other, there's gonna have to be an agreement as far as access with that
Exactly.
road to each property.
Yes. We have to get one of those attorneys involved. Dang it.
That's all the questions I had.
I would, on the map, can you ballpark where the split is gonna take place for me? I mean, is it?
So the new lot is 80 feet, correct?
Yes,
If you look at, there's a survey of the whole property.
Yep.
And that southern one, parcel 2, that's everything's existing, but he wants to split off what's parcel 1. So if you,
it's right next to the John Deere equipment there, first 80 feet.
Yep. It's right here. Roughly. Yep. Go away.
Question, so you're not gonna move the driveway until you decide what to do with the northern lot?
That's right.
Okay. Is that gonna be a problem if you were to sell both lots?
I know one of you can't have any future accesses off what's gonna be proposed, so are you, if he sells it, you're saying, is that gonna be a problem? Yeah. Didn't sound like the engineer from the county was concerned about that, as long as it's not landlocked, obviously, but,
To answer your question, if I sold either parcel, I'd probably have to move the driveway before I could sell one or the other.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know that for sure, but that would be the common sense thing, in my opinion. It'd have to be done first. Otherwise, it'd just be a problem later on.
And then it would have to be an agreement between both landowners.
Right.
Because
Right.
the county's not gonna allow another.
Unless you had an agreement with the new guy that purchased it, tell him what's gonna happen in the future or something, and you had it drawn up, would be the only way around that.
I guess I'm just curious why this is coming to us now if your plans to do this in 3 or 4 years. You know, it kind of seems a bit premature that you don't have a site plan. I know you have the survey for the parcel to come off, but, you know, I guess I'm just curious. I love the idea of a coffee shop there, for sure. I would use it, but
Sold, I'll hold you to that.
I certainly would.
Well, I just came in to do a lot split, and then the city says, well, you have to have some reason for doing, I mean, you know, why are you doing it? It's like, well, I want another business there. And they go, what are you gonna do? And then, so I came up with a business that, I'm gonna do down the road. everything takes so much time anyway. I mean, this has already been a year in process. What if I wanted to do it, a year ago? It'd still be sitting here waiting. I'll be ready for it now.
Right, I guess I'm just curious, I mean, what if you don't build a coffee shop there? What if you build a different business? You have to come back here? Or what if you walk away, then we have two parcels there and one may not be suitable for someone else to come in? I'm just,
Well, you could say that about any parcel. I met all your, everything the city asked me to do. I met every single thing. I'm not asking you to make any variances. So you guys set up the code and I followed it. That's what I did. So there's no reason you guys shouldn't approve it because I did what you asked me to do. Just like you could go through every parcel in the city and say that exact same thing.
After the lot split, the 80-foot wide is within our whatever, so.
Right, that's your guidelines.
Right.
I followed your guidelines 100%. I'm not asking for any variances whatsoever. And everything moves so slow, not only in this city, but every city. So you want to do things in advance, so when you decide, I move fast, when I want to do something, I want it done like right now. So it doesn't work that way. I'm not going to wait a year after I decide what I want to do to get something going. I may decide next spring to do it, then I'd have to wait another year after that to get it done. I don't want to do that.
so I just want you to understand the risk too of what happens here, because if you come back here and ask us for a variance, we just had this go down with Dollar General. We approve variances, council said they would not approve any variances for new construction, so.
I'm not asking for any variances.
I understand that, I'm just saying in the future, if
I'm
you were
kind
to
of
come
pissed
back
about
here.
Dollar General. I mean, that's right across my car wash. It brings me more business. What the heck?
But I just wanted you to be aware of that council shot that down, and that's
I
the
thought
thing, if you don't
somebody told me the
have,
mayor did, but I don't know.
but if you don't have a plan in place and you come back later and you're asking for a variance, that's a risk you're willing to take, it sounds like.
I'm willing to take that, absolutely, sir.
So, so what's the benefit of doing the lot split? Why not just build it?
Well, because if I want to keep one and sell one, then
Okay,
I have two different properties there.
gotcha.
So if I build a separate business there, then I have to sell them together. You want to buy a coffee shop and a commercial building all at one time?
Yep.
Yeah, you do?
No,
Oh,
me personally?
I'm just kidding.
I don't think you have the right price.
I just need to go back.
Diane, the person that couldn't find a parking spot.
I know.
Yeah.
I mean, everything seems fine to me except the driveway. So if you were to sell the south lot,
Yes.
prior to that sale, would we require the driveway to be moved? Because otherwise, the new owner could say, I'm not moving my driveway.
Well, you'd either require to have it moved or have something written up, by an attorney that's binding, one or the other, I guess,
And it sounds like the county won't allow 3 access points down there.
Yeah, and I understand that. If I was them, I wouldn't allow that either. I mean, who wants all those, exits coming off there? We already have one exit for the artisan on the south side, and to have one split on this side over here is no problem. And I understand that completely.
Yep. Other than that, I think it sounds good.
Perfect.
And I probably would have found a parking place there.
There's a lot of cars out there. I didn't know there's so many people in Cannon Falls.
Mr. Chair? Mr. Chair?
Yes?
Just so you know, any lot that's going to be created has to be conforming to city code, which does not include any landlocked piece of property, so there has to be access to it. There has to be the frontage, there has to be width and square footage.
And that was signed off by the Goodhue County engineer, correct?
So the
driveway has to be moved.
driveway's got to be put in.
So then the question is, are you going to be able to move the driveway?
Can I move the driveway? Absolutely, I can do anything. You bet.
Then that has
I
to be after this becomes official, he's got to move that driveway, or can he wait till it's,
He's got to put it in to split it.
okay?
Should be in to split it. You can't create a non-conforming lot.
Well, I can't put it in before you guys approve it, of course. Although I've considered that kind of stuff before. Never done it, obviously.
So we can approve the lot split with the caveat that he's gonna move that driveway,
The
correct?
counties already have that in their stipulations. And you guys can put down an addition, but they already have that.
Mr. Chair, approvals can be made conditional, and so you can, the city council can approve the subdivision, the lot split, and then not release because typically it's either by letter or a stamp in the deed, and not release that until those conditions have been met. So the approval and actually the split are two separate parts.
Moving that driveway is not a big deal. It's not like we're moving the Eiffel Tower here or something.
Okay, but, so we can approve it subject to that condition, or do we have to wait and have him move it?
No, Mr. Chair, members of the commission, you can make the approval with that condition or any other condition that you want on there. And so it's a conditional approval. And so the approval is there, and then he has to meet the conditions A, B, and C prior to being able to record a deed that would split the property.
Okay,
That's okay?
Well, the county already has that on there. So, I mean, of course it's okay, because whether you guys put on there or not, it's already required by the county.
right.
So I guess I have a question for the committee here. You know, the way Zach wrote this up, it says that in order to ensure the lot split is for the purpose of accommodating a future business, a resolution may be drafted to tie the property owner to this request. So are we going to propose a resolution or a caveat for him to, if we're gonna split this, you need to put a business there? Or are we just gonna split it and he's allowed to do whatever he wants with it, or?
If it's a conforming lot, our job tonight is not to decide what business is gonna be there. We just decide whether it's conforming to our standards.
Okay.
And once the driveway is moved, it is.
Okay.
But all businesses are gonna be required to be approved by the city anyway. You know, so when a business does go in there, it's not like I'm putting a strip club in there and just saying, I'm putting in whatever I want. You know, I have to come back and get approval from you guys anyway. Or somebody at the city at least. Does it conform with what you want?
Yeah.
Gonna make that motion?
If there's nothing else, I'd like to move to
Approve it.
approve this amendment.
Subject to the condition of the.
That's right.
I don't care about that. It's a moot point.
No,
Correct?
County's already requiring it, so.
You gotta
Mr.
have
Chair, members of the commission, the city, regardless of what recommendation or requirements that the county has, the city controls subdivision. And so the city would need to put that condition on there with regard to access that conforms to city code and the requirements of the county.
So you want me to make a motion to approve this upon the resolution that he does?
Subject
making a
to
motion?
the movement of the driveway.
I move that we accept this motion upon the condition of the approval of the movement of the driveway.
Is that okay with you?
Yes.
See, those attorneys make everything hard, don't they?
Full second?
Moved by Fox, second by Johnson, to approve the lot split, subject to the condition of the driveway movement. Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Steve, don't forget to come over to my shop and look around, okay?
I need that bumper. Yeah.
All right, I got one.
That wasn't a bribe or anything. But
Okay, I think that's all we had for tonight. Okay, so the next up on the agenda is text amendment for Bethel's Rock Church. Did you want to speak to that?
Sure. Mr. Chair and members of the commission, my name is Scott Landsman. I'm with the Cannon Falls City Attorney's Office. Oh, sorry. Is that better? Okay. You should have a really loud voice. What I'm going to talk about is going to be general and impacting both items. Before you today are two zoning text amendment applications to add certain conditional uses to particular zoning districts. It should be important to know that the decision to add a conditional use to a zone is for the entire zone and not just for a specific spot or piece of property. The applications are whether the uses should be added as conditional uses to the particular zoning district. It is not a consideration of any particular project. If the zoning text amendment is enacted, the application for a conditional use permit will come at a later date. So it needs to be allowed in the zone first before an application can be made for the actual project. Under city code, there are certain criteria you must consider in reviewing the applications. Is the proposed conditional use consistent with the comprehensive plan? Is the proposed conditional use compatible with present and future land uses of the area? If the conditional use is both consistent and compatible, then a determination must be made as to the conditions that would be placed on any approved conditional use. And again, these are general, not looking at a specific project. City Code, section 152.03, which is found in your agenda packet. It's in the, I believe it's in the staff reports. Performance standards for all conditional use permits. So these are conditions that would apply to any conditional use permit. And then the city code may also provide specific conditions for any particular conditional use. In your packet, city code section 152.523. It's just an example of specific conditions for a church conditional use permit. This is in the R2 zoning district. All general conditions would apply to all conditional use permits. The commission needs to decide on any specific conditions, and that's why I provide you those examples. Any approved zoning amendment to add conditional uses will include those specific conditions. So in summary, the zoning text amendment is for the entire zone and not just a specific piece of property or spot or a specific project. The commission must consider if the proposed zoning text amendments to add conditional uses is consistent with the comprehensive plan and compatible with present and future land uses in the area or district. If the answer is yes, then there needs to be discussion on any specific conditions that must be reasonable and connected to the conditional use. If the zoning text amendments are enacted by the city council, the next step would be for applications to be made for a conditional use permit for the specific property or project, which would be back before the commission. Are there any questions? Okay.
Zach?
Yeah, so Bethel's Rock Church has applied for an ordinance text amendment to amend the code in the B2 General Highway, General Business District to allow religious institutions via a conditional use permit. If the amendment is approved tonight, they would still need to apply for a conditional use to operate in the Grand O2 Event Center. I called some of the surrounding communities, Red Wings, Embroda, Wanamingo, Manorville, Casson, Pine Island, Northfield, Kenyon, Faribault, to kind of see where religious or institutions or churches were located in their cities. As you can see, the churches are a CUP in most of what would be their equivalent to our B2 zone. Some are permitted as well. I would urge Planning Commission to follow the guidelines of approval laid out in City Code 152057 when addressing the criteria for text amendment decisions. But yeah, if there's any questions, happy to answer.
Okay, with that, I'm going to open up the public hearing. Anybody wishing to speak on the text amendment for Bethel's Rock Church? please step forward.
Hello. Wow, that's a good one. Thanks again for giving me the opportunity to come speak again. My name is Brandon. I'm the lead pastor at Bethel's Rock Church, Cannon Falls. And today I would like to address really the significant issue of the zoning regulations in Cannon Falls and the potential for a church to operate within the B2 zone. I stand before as not only a pastor of the community, but also as somebody who lives here, somebody who moved here this year, that I have 5 children that I want to raise within this community, and I'd love to be just not only a part of Cannon Falls, but for the church that we've planted here to also be a part of Cannon Falls. To advocate for the approval of Bethel's Rock Church in the Beach Zone, or really any religious institution under conditional use to operate out of a B2 zoning. And I believe that there are compelling reasons that would support this. Firstly, churches contribute positively to the community's well-being. They're not just places of worship, but also centers for social services, community support, and local events. By allowing a church to operate in the B2 zone, Cannon Falls would be embracing the opportunity for enhanced community engagement. We also offer programs that support youth, children, counseling services, and we also organize charitable events and activities and much, much more. All the benefit would benefit the community and foster a sense of unity and support within everybody. Secondly, churches and businesses are not mutually exclusive. The B2 zone is designated for various commercial use and business activities. Currently, under the permitted uses, it allows for a theater, offices, clinical counseling centers, hospitality, community daycare under conditional use. Those are all currently allowed in the current zoning, but it does not preclude the inclusion of religious institutions that serve really a public good. Churches as religious institutions often function with similar community-oriented goals as local businesses, including creating economic activity through events and attracting visitors to the area. I mean, I even have people here today that have moved to Cannon Falls or are going to be staying in Cannon Falls just because they found community within our church and where we've been operating. So allowing a church in the B2 zone can stimulate positive activity and contribute to the local economy rather than detach from it. We, as a religious institution, are just requesting that we would have equal footing with other public assemblies, that we would be treated the same as any other public assembly within B2. Moreover, the presence of a church can enhance property values and neighborhood appeal. Studies have shown actually that areas with well-maintained active churches often increase property values, increase negative neighborhood conditions. This can lead to more vibrant and attractive businesses to residents and really the businesses in the area. The church would also be stable long-term tenant within B2. Once we plant roots, this is where we plan on staying. That's why I wouldn't have moved my whole family here if I didn't intend on being here for the long haul. Cannon Falls would really be demonstrating its commitments to this inclusivity. Finally, zoning flexibility promotes inclusivity. The B2 zone can encompass a variety of uses that benefit the community. Zoning regulations are designed to be flexible, and they are designed to accommodate needs. By allowing the religious institution to operate in the zone, Cannon Falls would be demonstrating a commitment to inclusivity and willingness to adapt zoning laws to better serve the evolving needs of the residents, as you see here today. All of that to say, allowing a church to operate in B2 zone is not only beneficial, but also aligns with the values of the community support. It aligns with what we could do for the economy and inclusivity. I urge you to consider those points and the text amendment. I also brought this evening various things that support us being passed. So I actually spent the last few weeks since the last time I was here talking to actually businesses that are currently zoned within the B2. And I brought letters, if you'd like to see them, of business owners, to include Kevin Manley right here. He owns 3 businesses within our own community, from the Artisan Plaza to the Muddy Duck, as well as his car place, as well as I have letters from. Excuse me, I got letters from. Make sure I got the right ones here. From Banks Outdoors, Marlene Banks filled one out from Banks Outdoors. I have one from Kevin. I have one from Josh over at Allied Valve. I have one from the owner of Indy Specialty, who used to own and operate that building. I have one also from the Valley View Recovery Center, from Matea McGuire over there. And really, even though I didn't always receive a letter from each person, because if you're a business owner, you know your time is worth a lot. I did also talk to 20th with these 5 included, that said that they would support us. People that surround that current B2, that really, if you look at that map, I talked to people that are zoned within the same area that say that they would support us being there. And those are businesses that are currently operating within B2 that are in full support of us being, or just religious institutions in being in B2. I've also brought with me today, as Zach has already previously mentioned, different zoning regulations of different municipalities surrounding that do allow for religious institutions with like-minded things. I also brought with me today, if you would like to take a look at this, I brought 2 examples of cities that actually had went against, and I know I had brought this up that first June meeting, but the Religious Land Use and Institutionalized Persons Act, and I just wanted to read how similar some of these are. The United States versus Waukegan, Illinois, in 2008, Department of Justice brought legal action under RLUIPA's equal terms provisions against Illinois City with respect to its exclusions of places of worship and commercial districts that permitted clubs, lodges, meeting halls, and theaters after the town notified the small churches. So we're not there yet, but it would be the same. The Department of Justice reached a consent decree within the city requiring it to allow religious assemblies an equal footing as other public assemblies. And again, in 2015, United States versus St. Anthony Village, U.S. Department of Justice initiated legal action against the city of St. Anthony, alleged the city's failure to permit an issue of an Islamic center to open prayer in the basement of an office building located in a light industrial violated RLUIPA. The Department of Justice had claimed that the denial imposed a substantial burden and that allowing assemblies, meeting lodges, and convention halls, but not religious assemblies, also violated the RLUIPA. So the federal court in Minneapolis entered a consent ordering permitting the congregation to be able to utilize that. So these are just examples. I also have examples of other churches within a 25-mile radius that have also gotten text amendments that have been approved from as recent as in 2021, July 2021, Eagle Brook Church received a zoning amendment to add a church to the list of uses in planned development in the 646 Zone 1, and it was approved. I have the minutes in the meeting with me as well as the text amendment that was passed. So the same type of a situation that we're going through today, as well as actually just currently this year, July 7th of this year, River Valley Church was approved in Eagan, Minnesota, to be approved under, which they call, it's a conditional use, but to further go into it, I also have the minutes from that meeting to better explain and show you that it was very typical in line with the text amendment that they changed because under their current zoning, they didn't allow for churches within that current zoning. Also, as you're aware, this is our 3rd month back here. We are doing, first and foremost, whatever we can to work with the city. We're not trying to come against anything. We just want to be able to, as a church, operate in the building that we're currently under purchase agreement with, and there really are no other options viable within the community for a new church to come into town. With this building that we're currently under contract with, it would give us that opportunity. It would be the perfect thing for us in town. That being said, I was aware that last month you stated you would be against spot zoning, and I get the spot zoning. Really, we only went for a spot rezone or tried to rezone last month because that's what was suggested to us. But you did state that you don't spot rezone. And just looking at your own minutes in the past, I mean, really, if you look at your zoning map right here, you have right here R4 that you guys rezoned. That's right within B2. So you denied our rezone, but you've done it in the past. And when you look at the minutes, it's for different alternate reasons, whatever that may be. But you've done that in the past. And then I also have minutes from a meeting approving a text amendment in regards to the Valley View Recovery Center as well. And so you guys have already done that as well. So I just want to say, we're not trying to come in and say we want to do what we want. That's not it. But we believe that with the like-minded businesses being able to operate out of that, we would like for you to consider to allow for us for religious institutions to operate out of that same B2. So I just want to say thank you so much for your time and your consideration, and God bless.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah, and the same thing, when it comes to the comprehensive plan of the city, I don't believe that us being a church operating in that would really go against any of that, especially since we're not even pushing out the person that is currently the only one within the facility, which is the Grand O2 Center. They would continue to operate, and then we would move in upstairs. So I don't think it would go against any sort of the planning. In fact, I think it would bring more life back to that area, and that's what I got repeatedly when I talked to everybody who is currently operating within the B2. Every single person said that they would love it to be there because it would bring life back to that side of 52, that it would bring light, that it would even be an opportunity for somebody to come back in and be back in the Dairy Queen Center or something like that with us being over there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The next one up, we're gonna try to limit people to 3 minutes or less.
Thanks for giving me a moment. First of all, I want to apologize for reducing the entertainment value compared to
Hey,
previous
Steve,
speakers.
let's get names and addresses.
Sure. So
Your
my
name and
name's-
address, please.
Full name, Eric Johnson. Address is 7667 337th Street Way, Cannon Falls. Yeah, so Pastor Brandon, when he was up here, mentioned families relocating to the community as a result of Bethel's Rock Church. My family and I are actually among them. The church, I mean, not that this is what we're here for, but the church has been impactful for us. And I think really what I'm trying to say is it's a testament to the ancillary benefits that a church can have on a local economy beyond, what may appear from just looking at the site. Our church, like most of the churches in the area, are made up of lifelong Cannon Falls residents, visitors to the area who actually drive in for church, people who are relocating to the area. I happen to know 3 or 4 other families in our church looking to do the same thing, which I think helps corroborate some of the studies that have actually been done on a church's economic benefit for a community. A recent study found that the average local church of our size brings in about $2 million to a local community in additional revenue spent in local businesses in the area. A church can actually provide another $1 million of economic benefit by way of some of those community services that Pastor Brandon was describing, whether that be counseling services or recovery groups or, you name it, some of the different service opportunities that we take up in the city, like we already do and look to continue. Pastor Brandon mentioned this a bit as well, but studies actually show that a church in the local area for the next mile radius surrounding actually does lift property values by, on average, about 6.4%. As I understand it, all of the major surrounding communities in our area already have this similar zoning enacted, making Cannon Falls somewhat isolated in this regard in terms of how we zone for religious institutions. I think something else that was brought up in the last commission meeting that I attended was the concerns of what happens if our church decides to move on. Obviously, we would consider that a worst case scenario. We hope to be in the local community as a staple for decades to come, like some of the other churches in our community today. Should that happen, though, I truly believe that the community is still better off for our presence there, in part because of the improvements we're looking to do to make the building usable again for our usage as a church. Property improvements, not just the jobs that will be created in the local area, but also essentially enhancing the property value of the actual building itself, whether we were to vacate or not. And again, we do seek conditional use permit. So another thing that was brought up in that original meeting was opening the floodgates. But as we would have to stand before you again to have our own conditional use permit decided, so then would all of the businesses to follow us or institutions. So appreciate the time this evening.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Caleb Anderson. Address is 12535 335th Street, Goodhue, Minnesota. I have lived in Cannon Falls my entire life, graduated in 2001. Growing up here, I think I've got a pretty good sense of its benefits, its weaknesses, the positives and the negatives. And one of the things that there's a lot to talk about here, and I want to keep it specific to the text amendment change specifically, because I know we're going to talk about the church in the next meeting after you approve the text amendment change in this meeting. Because we have been meeting since June, and I think to me it just makes a lot of sense. This is a slam dunk, no-brainer. A lot of the communities in the surrounding areas already allow churches and business districts. We want to comply with federal law. Seems to make sense to me. We also, this building, just specifically here, is an example of a building that uses change. Office spaces are sitting empty, and this is a great opportunity to bring life to an area of town that used to have not such great light there. And that is our purpose, and that is our aim. My growing up here, I didn't have, I feel like we will provide something in the community that doesn't exist today. We will provide a way to truly encounter God and to truly understand what it means to have a relationship with Jesus Christ, and how that can impact the community and specifically our youth in Cannon Falls. And that is our aim, to have a large facility that we can have a large youth program. I had some other points here. I think Eric did an excellent job discussing some of the economic benefits. I know in the past we've talked about taxes and the lost revenue of the building. The current 2024 property tax assessment value was $23,500 and change. We're looking at acquiring half of the building, or the entire building, but we would be basically tax exempt on half of that. So we're really coming down to $12,000 here. And when you look at the economic impact, the amount of commerce, and the people in the community through community service, outreach, pre and post service events, building projects within the church and the community, and local mission work, as well as the responsible housing growth that will occur from natural people wanting to come to this community. I think we're going to dwarf that number. It just makes sense. It makes sense for B2. It makes sense for that area of town. And I just want to thank everybody that came out here to support the text amendment change for B2.
Thank you. Anyone else want to speak to the text amendment for Bethel Rock? Third and last call. Anybody wishing to speak to the text amendment for Bethel Rock Church? Hearing none. Hearing is closed. Committee.
You want to start?
Go ahead.
I have a few questions. So I understand that you do have a facility that you're working out of here in Cannon Falls, obviously.
Yes, so currently we're operating out of the First Congregation Church.
You
Yep.
hold a lease then with that?
Nope, so we're just currently, we're under an agreement where we share the facility with them and we pay them rent. We're not actually under an official lease, if that makes sense.
So there's no contract?
There's an agreement written down, yeah, but it's
written
not an
contract.
official lease.
How long would it take you to get out of that contract?
Anytime.
Oh,
Yep.
okay, then, the other thing I was wondering then is the facility that you're looking at, have you already made a financial commitment to that facility?
So we're currently under a purchase agreement, and part of that purchase agreement for us to close on the facility would be the opportunity to actually be able to utilize the building. So that's why we've signed for an extension of our purchase agreement. So no, we don't have a financial commitment, and we don't have to close on it unless we get an approval.
You didn't have to put a down payment down or anything?
Nope.
But you had to sign a contract?
That's correct, yes.
Did you research that location as far as the city was concerned before you signed that contract?
Did I research that it was B2 allowable?
Yes.
Or that it was B2?
No, it's that it was
Yeah.
B2.
So yes, I did see that it was B2, but
you
when I
do-
initially had requested a conditional use, I was looking at the,
What was the order? Did you talk to the city after you signed or before?
so I applied for a conditional use permit under the false understanding that it was Goodhue County and not within the city of Cannon Falls. And Zach actually replied to me and said that this is actually Cannon Falls, it's not county land. So then that's when we started and we came back in June.
Who
So
gave you that false information?
nobody gave me the false information.
What
That
I'm
was
wondering-
what was requested, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Were you advised by a lawyer at this point?
Nope, I have never,
Oh.
I have not.
Okay. So you've got a contract, so you're renting, and you've got a contract for purchasing. And you have not spoken to a lawyer about this?
No, I have a realtor.
You have a realtor?
I do, yes.
Is he a lawyer too?
No, she is not.
Well, the reason I brought that up is because in your presentation, which was fine,
Appreciate it.
you must have a to-do list to get this done.
Yeah, of course.
In this facility. And if you fail to get through that to-do list, do I understand that your final action would be then legal?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
Would your final action then be legal?
Yeah, once we sign the contract, of course.
No. Your to-do list
Yeah.
to get this facility, and if you fail to get this facility, or if we fail to, if it fails
Are you
because
asking-
it's not going to be changed.
You asking if I would take legal action?
Yes,
I'm not here under those pretenses.
but you brought it up.
I mean, no, I had shown you examples of things that have happened. That's not what I'm coming here today with.
Yeah, you showed us some examples that things are
I-
happening in different cities around the
Yes.
local area as well, so.
That's
I
correct,
have to
yes.
look at the whole picture.
I can tell you with the utmost honesty, I have not spoken to a lawyer about this at all. This is just due to research myself.
Okay, but you bring up legal action, so that gets my attention.
I'm not bringing up legal action against the city at all, and that's not what we're here talking about
Oh, we're not?
today.
If you don't get what you want from the city?
That's not my intention whatsoever.
I'm just wondering.
I'm just showing you all of the things that I've gotten when it comes to my research, when it comes to allowing for a religious institution to operate or not.
Your research.
Yeah, that's it. I promise that everything I've shown is just things that I have found.
But let's talk about the city itself. We've got, all our zoning is put together legally.
That's correct, yes.
So that's, am I off base here? I don't think I am either. Well, I'm not. I'm just saying that we want to know
Yep.
what your plan of action will be in the long
My
long
only,
run.
my only plan today was to come to request a text amendment in hopes that it would be approved.
Okay.
This is my third time back. I'm just trying to work with the
yeah.
city the best that I can.
I appreciate what you're doing, and
Thank you.
Certainly, we want as many good viable religious facilities in our churches, or in our city as possible, but we also have an area that raises taxes for the community to keep all of everything that we've got going. And our zoning is designed to protect those taxes. And that's just a logical thing.
So you're
For the
saying
city
that
to do. No,
the
for
fact
the-
that we
no,
don't pay
I'm saying for the
taxes is
city
what?
to provide services that, good utilities, good infrastructure, we need we need taxes. We have set aside specific areas in the city that we feel will raise taxes the best. You want to have us look at making an exception to those areas.
Not necessarily making exception, but approving a text amendment that would align with federal law.
That would what?
Align with federal law.
There we go again. Okay. So I hear what you're saying, and I certainly appreciate what you're doing.
Thank you.
And it's not an
Appreciate
easy
you
thing
as
to
well.
do. I mean, nothing is. But the city has to protect itself as well.
Yep.
And it also has to provide a good protection for the society within the community. And I just, I don't know, I just think that there's facilities that, or locations available within the city. I mean, have you made an offer to buy Congo?
No, we haven't.
Why not?
Because they're still operating there. We're going to
Because-
kick another church out?
No, are they operating?
Yes, they're still operating.
I wasn't totally aware of that.
Yep, they're still operating. So purchasing their facility would then cause another church to not allow to be in this town.
We've got a couple of facilities that, I'm just wondering about. And maybe I'm not right on that, but.
Yeah, and I promise you that I've done my due diligence in looking into every facility.
So I think that, what I'm saying is it feels like you put the cart before the horse. That's what it just feels
back
like.
in June, we're here now.
And not considering the legal aspects of the city. And yet, you bring up legal.
Well, I'm just saying that, I was just giving you examples of other cities that have done the same thing.
Okay, well, thanks for answering my questions and listening. I appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Next.
And I appreciate your comments. However, regardless of how all of this came up, the real question before us is whether or not religious organizations can exist in a B2 zone. And you look at the communities, Red Wing, Pine Island, Northfield, Kenyon, Faribault, who allow it. And I guess my question would be to all of us as a city is, yes, and I'm the one that brought up the property tax base.
Yeah, you did, yes.
But at the same time, I'm really, as long as we understand that, I really don't feel that there's a reason not to allow religious organizations in B2 zoning. I mean, obviously the same conditional use things that we have for churches in residential areas would apply, and maybe there have to be a few others, I don't know, but now if all these other communities didn't allow it, then I would have to think twice, but we lose a little bit of property tax money. We lose that in residential area, in all of our things, and so I'm just not sure. Like I said, I would speak in favor of allowing this in B2.
Question then, these cities that have.
Speak up a little bit, I can't hear you. Speak up a little bit, please.
Sure, thank you. The cities that have been noted that allow it, do they actually have churches within those B2 areas? I mean, the fact that they allow it doesn't mean that it's actually happened.
That's the conditional use permit.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Have those cities that have been
But
noted
there
here?
again, it's not a question of how many churches they have in a B2
Okay,
zone
yeah.
or religious organizations.
So if they have none, it's okay too?
Right. The question for us is, do we allow religious organizations in a B2 zone? It has nothing to do with the complicated processes taken to get here.
And at this point, our code doesn't.
No, and the amendment, text amendment would allow it. So we can be on different sides.
Sure, that's fine.
okay.
Yeah, I'm fine. No problem there. Not gonna hurt my ego, that's for sure.
They'll just pound me outside.
Okay, thanks.
I would say I agree with everything Diane said. I mean, if other communities are doing this, I don't see why we can't. Thank you for your persistence, I think. I think this is the best option that was on the table the last 2 times you came here. This is the 3rd time.
I agree.
I don't see the downside. I mean, yes, we're losing a little bit of tax base, but if you're bringing people to Cannon Falls and there's an empty building there, yes, I understand Grand O2's there, but it's creating business. People are there. It's good for the town, in my opinion. So.
Thank you.
Jesse?
I have a question for the attorney. You brought up the statement earlier about making a text change, and for that to it includes the stuff that they are required to do in the original would be residential area. Is that, did I understand that correctly?
Again, remember, there's 2 parts to this. Is one, are you going to allow it or not allow it?
Right.
Looking at, consistency and compatibility in the zoning district. And then once you've made that decision of that it would be allowed, then it's a matter of, there's general conditions that apply to all conditional use permits, which are found in the code and are in your packet. And then it's whether or not you're going to have specific conditions. And so those specific conditions, as there's an example in the R2 zone, those specific conditions would be, put it this way, you'd have the B2 zone text amendment. It would say conditional uses. It would say probably say churches or religious institutions, and then under it, it would list those specific conditions. So when you read, so basically when it comes back before you, and there's the consideration of whether or not to, on the application for that conditional use permit for the specific project, you would look both at those general conditions and those specific conditions, and those would be added to the conditional use permit. I don't have those in front of me right now, but.
So let's say, for example, let's say that this passes and we approve this text change. You're saying when we do the second part with the conditional use permit, then that's when we'll address whether or not the requirements get met as far as the religious organization in a B2? I mean, are we pulling stuff from our?
What you need to do what the job is right now is to either allow or not allow.
Yeah.
If you say you're going to allow it, make that zoning text amendment, then determine what those specific conditions will be. Okay, that's all you need to do right now.
Okay.
Then when the application does come, assuming an application comes before you for a conditional use of a religious institution in that zone, the first part is to make sure whether or not it's allowed or not allowed, because they have to meet under the conditional use permit code. There are certain items they have to meet, which includes adequate infrastructure, and it's in there. And then once those are in there, then you look at the conditions that are going to be placed on the approval. So, but again, that comes later. Right now, your job is to say yes or no, and then make a determination what those specific conditions would be, and that would be the zoning text amendment.
So the way I understood this was that this may be in our codes, it's not consistent or it might not be consistent with what we do in a B2 right now. Is that correct? The way it's written.
Well, the idea is whether or not it's consistent in the comprehensive plan. And
Right.
so,
And it's not consistent in our comprehensive plan at this point, that we can see.
well, that's a determination for the
Yeah,
commission to make.
that's what we have to figure
Yeah.
out. And then we have to figure out if it's compatible with that location. I believe you brought both of those subjects up to start with here.
Correct, but I do want to note that with regard to zoning, the city has complete control over the zoning of the property, and although you're going to be looking at consistency and compatibility, it's really a decision for the city to make.
And I think it's important that we know that our job here is to just advise the council.
Correct.
And that's what we do.
Correct. Any motion today would be a recommendation to the city council.
Yeah, and that's what our job really is. We don't do the final votes. We just advise the way we think it might go, or the way you think or I think, whatever. But I'm still always looking out for the city, despite what other cities do. That's just what I do here. That's all I had.
Okay, so, my question is,
Yes, sir.
Brandon, is, I'm gonna be the stick in the mud here.
Sounds great.
My question is, you know, if we allow a text amendment to allow religious organizations, what happens if Joe Blow with 50 head of steers comes in and says, I consider this my religion and want to start, I know I'm way out of line, but what constitutes a religious organization that would be next, that would come in next? Because we allowed a text amendment.
I would say that, number one, the conditional use permit, whatever conditions you would put on it, they would have to come and prove that to you. Where I could present you with today that we're general council affiliated as a religious organization
What if
in the
they did
United
that?
States.
What if they did all their homework and came in?
Didn't you deal with that then? Why are we talking about this?
How would we not allow that though? Once we do a text amendment.
And because
I'd rather have the council
believe-
in the business and in the residential.
I'm just saying, we gotta look out to
Yeah.
what's next. You guys got what you thought was necessary. What's next? You know, we're still looking out for the future of the
What-
whole city.
I believe in general, a religious institution would have to prove that they're a religious institution. You can't just state, for instance, in the military, in order to get a religious exception for to grow, let's say, a beard, which it's my understanding that, Bruce, that you have served and possibly still do, that in order to have a beard, you have to have a religious exemption in order to do that. So that is brought, it has to be an actual religion. It can't just be, well, you know, I believe that in fairies, and with fairies I can have long hair, and so I identify as a fairy, so I should be able to have long hair. No, you still have to get the approval, and you would have to prove that it's an actual religion, not just, and I mean, that's the DOD. So, I mean, I would imagine that there would be easy ways to combat if somebody comes in and says, I believe that cows are the next whatever, for you to say, well, can you prove to us this is an official documented religion, or are you just starting this today? I think there would be ways to determine and change and go against that.
I use that for an example, but.
Yeah,
could be
I get it, you know.
I have a lawyer question. I think not. If we were to recommend to the council to approve this text amendment, looking at the conditional use limitations for residential, most of them don't seem to be pertinent to a B2 zone. And I don't think we have time tonight, unless everybody wants to tar and feather us, to go through and figure out what the conditional uses should be. Is there some other guide we could use?
I'm sorry, what was that, what was the question you had at the end? I just missed the last
Conditional
sentence.
use permit, stipulations.
Yeah,
You said those should be approved with the text amendment,
correct.
but we don't have any of those before us. The ones for residential don't seem pertinent in some ways.
No, I didn't see any examples of proposed conditions that were in there from staff. The only thing I saw in the packet was existing conditions as an example. The zoning text amendment will need to have those specific conditions in there so that they can attach to whatever application comes in.
How will we get those?
Yeah, I mean, if you don't have those at this point, and you need more, similarly, if you need more information to make a decision, you can always table an item to bring back with conditions, proposed conditions.
So the conditions aren't when they apply for the CUP? You gotta have conditions
You
approve this?
Yeah, because you're looking to do a zoning text amendment that's going to say, we approve X in this. We approve religious institutions in this zone. And if you don't have those conditions in there when they make their application, the conditions aren't going to apply. You have this. You have general conditions, okay? Those general specific conditions that are already under the conditional use permit area in the code. But I would suggest that if you're looking to have specific, if there's any conditions that you're looking to have beyond just the general conditions, that they would attach as part of the entire approval. That way, when application is made for a conditional use permit for a religious institution in that zone, the applicant knows what is required.
For example, under R1, you have, in order for religious institutions such as churches, chapels, temples, synagogues, provided that what he's stating and what he's saying, when you look under your city code, the first one is side yards shall be double that required for the district, but no greater than 30 feet. Adequate screening for abundant residential uses and landscaping is provided that it's compliance with, and then city codes. Adequate off-street parking, loading accessible. And now there's opportunities through all the R1s that you currently have, churches that are already out and laid out currently under each one of your whether it's RB, R1, R2, R3, it's all in there. But I'm not gonna put in there what conditional uses you would have in there. That's why I left that blank. But you guys do have those conditional uses as the city attorney is stating, under all of the R1s if you look at the city code.
Right. Yeah, and I'm just asking Zach, to do this correctly,
Yeah.
I'm assuming in B2 zone, we do have a conditional use permit stipulations for some of those other uses that were like the theater or whatever.
That's correct.
Those are
right.
permitted uses. The theater would be a permitted use.
Right, but
Things that are listed as conditional use, there are conditions accompanying.
would any of those be able to be just carried over to this or added to it, or are they not?
I mean, I'm sure you could take some that kind of fit with the B2 as well as a church that kind of satisfies, but
Does anything from the recovery center play a part here? Did we offer a conditional use permit for them, and
Have it here.
What did we put in that? Because that was an existing building where someone came in, they changed the business model completely. Recovery center,
I think that was before my time here, so I don't know if I can.
So I do have the minutes from that if you wanted to see
Mr. Chair,
them.
if I may, one of the things that the commission could do is to make a recommendation for, if they're looking for approval, to approve the text amendment and to include those conditions that are in the other zones. And in the meantime, I will say that in the meantime, between now and the council meeting, Zach can do some research and put together some recommendations if there's going to be changes for the council, or if it is adopted with those conditions, it can always come back at a later date to be refined. if the council is looking forward to, if the commission is looking to move forward on this.
We ready for a motion, or we're gonna keep talking?
If you do need to see, I do have from that rehab center, so you can see what conditional uses they put on that. In case you want to see that.
I want to do what he said.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, it would be, if the motion is made for approval, it'd be a motion to approve the zoning text amendment to allow a conditional use in the B2 zone with conditions that are similar, or similar conditions as in the, which zone? R2? Yeah.
I will make that motion.
Second.
Yeah.
Who was that? Motion by Johnson, second by Fox, to approve the text amendment subject to the R2 conditions. Does that sound right?
Correct.
And any additional ones from the B2 conditional? Yeah.
Yeah, and I would say, I think that Zach will refine it when it comes back to the council.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. On to the next step.
That was one.
Fuck.
Bethel's Rock Church, are you guys staying for the remainder of the meeting? If you're not, I just assume you leave now so you don't disrupt the next part. You're welcome to stay.
I think I'll stay. Support they supported us.
The next item is a public hearing on the text amendment to allow, okay, let me get it right. Motorized kart racing at the Cannon Valley Fair. Zach.
Yeah, thank you. So the Cannon Valley Fair has applied for an ordinance text amendment to amend the code in the UR Urban Reserve zone in our city to allow kart racing via a conditional use permit. I will direct Planning Commission to look at Exhibit 3, which shows Cannon Falls official zoning map. Your decision tonight will affect all the green UR areas. If approved, the Cannon Valley Fair would still need to apply and get approval for a conditional use permit. This permit would allow Planning Commission and Council to put conditions on the use, some of which could address things such as noise, hours of operation, traffic, etc. But what is being addressed tonight is the amendment and how that will affect the current and future land use in the urban reserve.
Okay, with that, I'm going to open up the public hearing. Anybody wishing to speak to it, please step forward and name and address. Please please try to limit to 3 minutes.
Okay. That's hard to do.
I know.
I speak slow. I'm Furlan Miller. I live at 1016 Minnesota Street West, but I'm here to represent the Cannon Valley Fair. Before you start timing me, I want to thank everybody, even the opposition that's here, because I know there's a lot of opposition. I would ask that those that are in favor of this, please refrain from saying anything or to the opposition. Let them speak. They have a right. So to start with, what we need is the conditional use. What we didn't know is there was a little chunk of land that was the urban reserve area in the fairgrounds. Not really sure how, when, or why it got put there. According to the urban reserve, it has to be 10 acres or more, and that's only an 8.9 acre piece, so I'm not sure when it came into play. So with that, how this racetrack came about was Jeff ran a track in Wisconsin. It's about 2 hours away. Jeff is from the Welch area. He approached the fair about doing a go-kart track there. And we listened to him. And after he left, we had discussions on it. I went down to the kart track where he was currently had a racetrack and brought 2 other people with me. We were down there, had a good time, a lot of kids, a lot of families. When he had the same style karts racing on it, we were within 150 feet of the track and we could carry conversation. I don't know if it has to do with location or what is going on, why there seems to be a real noise problem. So after all the stuff that has taken place, we as a fair and Jeff with the track have made changes to help out. Number 1, being done by 10 o'clock. Number 2, we made the loudest carts, the micro sprints, to put downpipes and mufflers on. That's almost a $200 expense for each of the people, but they were all willing to do it. I think this is only the second track that is enforcing something like that. Most tracks run without it. Now, there's other tracks that race within city limits all over the place, from full-size cars to kart tracks everywhere. And then we get into some facts of the kart race in here. The 125 250 class has 1 heat race, and that's all it's ever really raced with it. The heat race lasted about 2 minutes and 36 seconds over the whole night. Now we're talking about a 4-hour period this is, and this is average. The feature for them was about 2 minutes and 39 seconds. The micro sprints would run anywhere from 2 to 3 heats, but generally it's a 2 heat. Them heats would run about 2 minutes and 53 seconds apiece on average. The features would run on average about 15 minutes and 8 seconds. Slingshots, 1 heat race, 2 minutes and 45 seconds. Feature about 4 minutes and 21 seconds. These 3 classes are the only classes that would create any noise that anybody should, if they can hear it, is what they're hearing. Now, I feel like you got the situation where if you're against it, you hate it, the noise is really irritating. Then you got the other side that if you're for it, the noise doesn't bother you. What is the facts? What's the in-between? Because we're all going to lean one way or another. We got a decimal meter reading. I sat on the hill on the fairgrounds. The loudest we got was at 89. Now we're on the fairgrounds, not to the property line, up on the hill. The closest house is right around 700 feet from the track. Most places that do have a noise ordinance, and if you get reading into noise ordinances, it really breaks down to a period of time, a percentage of what you're allowed. Very expensive. I don't know who can sit here with the equipment because they say there's also a lot of stuff that comes into play with that. You got a highway, that interferes. If the wind's blowing, that interferes with monitoring. Can be done. I don't know who does it. But I talked to people with the county, someone that deals with this, and they said they got to go out and monitor, but the way the law is, it's really a tough tough deal to monitor to get true readings of what you need, especially in an outdoor venues. So, I mean, this does have, and it's kid friendly. I mean, this is mostly kids. Yes, there's adults that race the bigger carts, but there's kids that race them too. The impact to this community is huge. Jeff had a 3-day event down there. We know for a fact from reaching out to businesses that people were here eating at the restaurants. They were golfing. They used the cannon pool. They went golfing. I mean, it's everywhere, what they used in this town. Gas stations, every time they come to town to race, they're stopping at gas stations, whether it's to fuel their vehicles, to get snacks or whatever. The event itself, very cheap. You want to go there and watch an event? How many events around can you go to that you only pay $5 a person? $30, you can take a family of 4 and eat and have some pop and enjoy some racing. These kids are passionate about what they do down there. Jeff is willing to work with anybody that wants to have their kid out there racing, find them a cart, help them, teach them. And for us to survive as a fair, I don't know how many more businesses around can be open 4 days a year and survive in today's world. It's very expensive. Things have changed. I don't know where things have changed, but we now pay way more than we ever used to for utilities and stuff, which is fine. We should pay our fair share. We need to do stuff to bring money into that fair, like every other fairgrounds does. We've been around for 109 years. It's run by volunteers. These volunteers bust their butt prior to us, and there'll be volunteers after us to keep this fair open another 109 years. It's the biggest community event we have in town, and this track will help a lot. Buildings are old, they need to be fixed. We can't just let them fall down. And we can't ask every business in town to always hand us money. These businesses don't have the money. Bringing new money to town, new money spent in town, that helps your town. Old money doesn't grow towns. That's a fact. These guys are spending money in this town. I would say, obviously, there's going to be people from out of town that are here right now. There's a lot of people from town. I don't know how many want to speak, but I want a show of hands right now who's here to support this thing. And this helps with showing you who's all here to support this. This is not just a small group of people. I get the opposition. We're trying to make concessions. We're trying to change things to make it better. And we have. We change things. So, I'm here to answer questions on that, or I can step aside, let other people speak. If you guys got any questions.
Well, we'll address that after people.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
I just want to say thanks to Ferlin for.
Can I get your name and address?
Yes, Julie Anderson, 303 6th Street, Cannon Falls. I'd like to go back to thanking Ferlin for acknowledging there's opposition and there's people for it, and to not heckle one side or the other. But I'd also like to see a show of hands, the people that are for the track that live within the city limits of Cannon Falls. In the city limits of Cannon Falls. Okay. So I live about a half mile from the racetrack, my husband and I, and our biggest concern is not the fact that on a Saturday evening, we have to go inside our house, close our windows, and with the air conditioning running and watching a movie, we can still hear the track, the carts over, all of that. It's not about right now. It's about the long-term planning of what our city will look like in 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. I think, as the lawyer said, you have to think about, what was the exact wording? The compatibleness and the consistent, and going back to the long-term planning of the city. On the west side of Cannon Falls, where we live, by the Fairgrounds, I know that there was an abundance of calls to the police department about the noise issue. It could be heard all over town, not just within close proximity. And in regards to the long-term issue we have with the racetrack regarding the noise, is that it will lower the property values on the west side of town, which will lower the property tax base on that side of town, which will have a negative impact on Cannon Falls. When Ferlin started talking, he acknowledged the noise issue. It is something that's real. When we spoke to the police, they said they, again, had an abundance of calls of people calling as far out towards the sanatorium, up in Cedar Hills, all throughout town, not just on the west side. Ferlin expressed that the fair struggles to exist because of only having 4 days. I would suggest, has there been any active pursuing other options such as more horse racing, flea markets, et cetera, that would not have a noise issue? I would just ask that you not approve a text amendment. I think it has to do with thinking about if this racetrack goes forward, what else will come into town. And I also want to speak to the point that it's a business that's running without, as far as I know, any permits. They've gone ahead and done quite a bit of things that no other business or person in Cannon Falls would be allowed to do. Look at how much conversation we had over a driveway, so please take that into consideration. I feel like if you give this an inch, it will go a mile. Ferlin also talked about it being kart races. I know in the middle of summer, there was something on the site about motorcycles, and then it was quickly shut down. But I think it's karts now. What will it be next summer? 2 summers from now, 3 summers from now? You're going to be seeing a lot more requests for expanding the conditional use permit. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Jan Fennern, and I live at 1128 West Minnesota Street. My property does adjoin the Fairgrounds. I'm going to read a letter from Kurt Beisel, also a West Side resident who's unable to be here tonight, and ask that this letter be submitted. Kurt says, in May 2023, concerns regarding noise, environmental, and other issues resulting from the track's construction and operation were raised during an open meeting, during an open forum in the regular city council meeting. In advance of the meeting, a petition was circulated to affected neighbors on the west side. Over 100 people who had a chance signed it. During the meeting, all assurances were given by the Fair Board and the racetrack developer to the council, to the citizens in attendance, and to subsequent local newspapers that noise from go-karts would be minimal. We were misled by the Fair Board and the Cannon River Raceway. The amendment should not be approved. Consider the following. 1, in addition to kid karts, mini heats from sprint karts with 600 cc, 140 horsepower engines are allowed to race. 2, the Cannon Valley Fair is not a county fair and is subject to the zoning regulations of the City of Cannon Falls, Goodhue County. Minnesota Statutes 116.071.4 states, local governing agencies are relied upon to enforce noise standards related to local land use. 3, Cannon River Raceway LLC, Minnesota registration 1427164100024, is a separate entity from the fair and should be subject to all state, county, and city ordinance and regulations. 4, additional statute 116.0 states that the tracks built after 1996 must comply with state ordinance noises. The statute has ensured that no track since 1996 has received permission to build in or near a community of citizens. 5, further, a discretionary environmental review should have been undertaken before any grounds were broken for a track. for a track to determine the adverse environmental impacts. Considering the above information, the track owner should never have broken ground. Cannon River Raceway should no longer be allowed to operate in its current location. As residents, we have rights to enjoy our property. We have the right to sit back in our backyards and enjoy our evenings. We have responsibly pay our taxes with the expectation that the city does what is in the best interest of the community. Respectfully submitted, Kurt Beisel, 1231 Minnesota Street West, Cannon Falls. I would just add, I'm not sure the hoops that this raceway went through to get here. I'm looking at a church that has been here numerous times. This racetrack, we didn't know anything about. My property adjoins. I learned about it from someone outside of the city. So first of all, that is disappointing. Second of all, I just want to mention that I have a business in my home. I am a child care provider, and I have a preschool in my home. I care for children, typically Monday through Thursday, but I do after hours and weekend care. I've done it numerous times on weekends, and I have done it while this fair was racing, and I had to leave my home with my children. It was just too loud for them. And so I would ask that you not approve this text amendment. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Jackie Broyne, and I live at 105 Haven Heights Court. I am also right above the Fairgrounds. I'd like to ask everyone here, how many of you know what tinnitus is? Tinnitus.
Tinnitus, you mean?
It's pronounced either way. The correct way is tinnitus. How many of you know? Tinnitus is a constant ringing in your ear. It's a disabling condition, especially noted by veterans. The individuals who live above the fairgrounds are living with tinnitus, or for those of you that want to call it tinnitus. Having worked with the disabled for 35 years, I saw a lot of individuals who had to deal with this condition. It is a disabling condition for a number of people. When we sit out in our lawns on the weekends, we have to listen to this. My husband is a veteran, and he compares it to tinnitus. One of the things that I think that we need to consider about this isn't just the noise. The road down by the fairgrounds is not designed for the amount of traffic that is going through right now. It is a narrow road. There are no sidewalks. There's little room for walking, and that area is used by a number of residents for walking and for biking. We also have a park down there and a swimming pool. So this means we have children that are out and about in this area. I've watched so many times with people speeding through that area that is marked for 30 miles an hour, and they're not doing 30. I can start by taking the turn by the feed store, and by the time I'm past the swimming pool going 30 miles an hour, I've gone from no one near me to someone tailgating. So we're not even seeing that the individuals that are using that road are sticking within the law. So then you throw on to that a number of individuals who are walking, or their children that maybe escape mom or dad when they're down by the pool. We have a high-risk situation. The other thing that needs to be brought up is with the amount of traffic that we're seeing, we could also have additional costs for police to keep that area under control. And the roads are not designed for the amount of traffic that they're going to be seeing. So this is going to be a cost to the Cannon Falls taxpayer. We already have a very high tax base. And now we're going to be supporting an outside business that, for those of us that live in the area, is very unpopular. And Ferlin is my next door neighbor, so I know he understands. But it's very hard to justify that we're going to have to support an outside business for something that we're not comfortable having in our backyard. So I would recommend that this go no further than it is. We don't know what's going to happen long-term, and it is the responsibility of the council and this committee to take care of the members of the city of Cannon Falls, not outside interests.
Thank you.
Well, my name is Gerald Shanik, and my address is 101 Tamara Lane, so I'm adjacent to the fairgrounds. But I hear Ferlin telling us that this race lasts 2 minutes and this race lasts 15 minutes. And the next thing I hear is they have a 3-day event. So you want me to sit inside my house for 3 days with the windows shut and can't go outside for all the noise? So you have to take that into consideration. And I counted all the houses that are adjacent to they would be Minnesota Street is the first through street south of the fairgrounds. And there's a total of 84 homes if you consider the duplexes to the west and everything on north and south of Minnesota Street. So you got 84 homes there. They can't do a thing when the racetrack is going, because you can't hear a thing whether you're outside. Then you have to go inside and you can't open the windows because it's still too noisy. So I hope this council takes this into consideration, that we pay taxes up there. And I don't know where all these go-karts are coming from, and I know there's a lot from town, but consider our situation also. Thank you.
Thanks, Jerry.
The other thing I would mention is I called up the county to see if they issued any permits, and they haven't got back to me on this yet, but I was in the building trade all my life, and I get shut down. If I don't get a permit, they shut me down right away. And they built an expensive track down there with, just put it up, and it's like, how come they're not shut down yet? So I would strongly suggest that everything gets shut down until we figure this out. It's not doing anything for my taxes either. And I'd like to let them know what's going to happen, because I'll sell my house give me a chance to sell my house if I got to put up with that noise.
Thanks, Jerry.
Thank you.
Let the kids go next. Next, come on.
Okay. So we're race car drivers from we're race car drivers from our home track is Cannon River. I mean, it's a family sport. We're bringing grandparents, parents, having fun. And then I mean, it's fun to be there. But it's a family sport. I mean, if you take it away from me, you're taking it away from all of these guys and all of my family. But, yeah, please.
Good evening, Cannon Falls community. My name is Jacob Demo, and I am 18 years old, and will be going eight years old, and will be going into 3rd grade. I am here tonight on behalf.
Where are you from?
Owatonna, Minnesota.
Huh?
Of behalf of myself and my racing family, to help support Cannon River Raceway on a typical night, 60 to 70 drivers made up of mostly kids and teenagers along with their parents and families come to Cannon Falls, to race their go-kart, slingshot, and micro spins. Walking through the pits, you will find strollers with young siblings, parents, and grandparents wishing their kids good luck, and the famous fist bump from friends and fellow competitors meaning good luck. Canyon River Raceway has given us a safe and friendly atmosphere to compete and showcase our talent, and racetrack has allowed us to meet so many people outside of our school and local lives, and enabled us build lifelong friendships. On behalf to Jeff and Jennifer Schubert, Canyon River Raceway, and our racing family, we ask for your long-term support and commitment in your community. Sincerely, Jacob Demo and my racing family.
Hi, my name is Gary Johnson, 909 Park Street West. I'm not going to talk too much because I kind of swear too much, but I want to show you a video if I can find it quick. That's one, that's the kids, it's not modified. There's modifieds, that's what we hear up there. And this is off the computer on my phone, so the sound isn't as bad on here, but that's all I got to say, so thank you.
Thank you, Gary.
Hi, I'm Jody Montgomery, and I live at 109 Haven Heights Court, right above the fairgrounds. My backyard butts right down to the fairgrounds. First of all, what he says, that doesn't even do justice for what the noise actually sounds like. Last weekend, or the last time they ran it, I had my grandson staying with us and put him to bed, and he comes downstairs and goes, "Grandma, I can't sleep because it's so loud." And that's with windows shut and everything. The other thing I have a question is, right now you're getting complaints from people of Cannon Falls for the noise, and it's only happened a couple weekends so far this year. I would like to know what the goal is of how many weekends they're planning on running it and how frequently, because I looked up his other racetrack and it covered a period from April to October, one race in October, and it covered like 12 to 15 weekends. And if that's what our summers are gonna be like, I think that's something you really need to take into account, is for us to have to live with that noise that long. And that's all I gotta say.
Thank you.
Hi, my name's Kevin Kopman. I live at 1200 West Minnesota Street. I live right directly above the fairgrounds. Years ago, there used to be a grove of trees there that used to buffer a lot of the noise. Well, they took that out to put that retaining pond in to drain the whole west side. So now, it used to be not so bad, but, and I've lived there for 40 years. We knew the fair was there. We had no problem. We thought 4 days is all we had to put up with. And Steve, come on and have a beer with me sometime when they're running this son of a bitch. Please do, because I'd love to have you hear it. I'd like to have the PCA up there when they start up those tractor pull engines. My wife has plates on the wall. Well, we go take them down when the fair comes because they are just rattling. And I've seen the police up there registering with decibel meters the volume of noise, and they've been doing it. But what I'd like to say is, you allowed this to happen. How many more events are there gonna be? What are the other events? Now, I got a lot of great ideas if you people want them. Shit, when the winter comes and they plow that snow and they put in the swimming pool parking lot, hell, let's put that out on the fairgrounds and put moguls out there, and you can run goddamn snowmobiles out there, okay? Now, in the springtime, we put mud dirt in there and mud, so we make it muddy. Now we get the ATVs in there. You know, how many weekends do we got to put up with this? You know, we were fine with the fair. Now we get this. And how many weeks is it going to run? This has kind of been slipped in under the carpet. Nobody knew about it. You're the city council. Stand up and do your job, boys, because you aren't. Okay? Listen to the people clapping. Listen to us.
One question. What kind of beer?
What do you want? I got one that'll knock your ass, you are right on your ass. It's a home brew.
Thank you.
Yeah, and we have kids here. We don't need them from Owatonna telling us what goes on in Cannon Falls.
Sounds like you might have had a beer already. My name's Shad Singleton. I traveled from 2 hours away. I'm from Mora, Minnesota. Been involved with the Subert family for as many years as my daughter's been racing. I just have a few small facts here. On July 27th, there was this 3-day show everybody talked about. 2 days of it was the days that we would have had the louder cars there. I personally had 30 to 35 people that traveled in from Minnesota, Texas, Iowa, Wisconsin, Illinois, Nebraska. All of them stayed at the Grand Stay for a total of 11 rooms. We all went to Brewster's for lunch on that Saturday. I don't think they were disappointed to see us come in for lunch. I don't know what that economic impact equals, but I heard one of the councilmen say, you know, we might lose some tax revenue on the church, and I appreciate your guys' passion. We're passionate about our racing. But you said might lose some tax revenue, but it brings people to Cannon Falls. On August 10th, 77 cars registered. If the average car had 3 people that come with them, the driver being one of them, probably a parent, two parents, that's 231 people that come into Cannon Falls. That's going to be a small show. We're here for one day, but I can promise a lot of money comes to town. My mom managed a Casey's store for 35 years. Casey's is allowed to say how many employees they have based on gas sales. So the more gas sales you have, the more employees you can have to support your store. I make sure every time I go to any town to race, I support the local Casey's because I know they can have one more person there hopefully to help get people in and out of the door. I buy all our ice, all of our water. I buy it in the towns that we race in. I think people talking about this 14 weekends, I know we have 7 points races this year. None of them are on back-to-back weekends. We've had some weather issues, but I'm not going to say how many races there is, but there's probably a dozen races total. And I grew up in a town that had a racetrack right in the town. People talking about people not being able to sleep. My daughter had to wake my 2-year-old granddaughter up at the racetrack the other night to put her in a car seat to take her home. So I don't know if the noise is that bad, but I think what they're doing for the community is great. It's great for the youth. Youth that are involved in racing don't get involved in other things because they're too busy out in the garage helping dad. There's a couple boys in here that are teenagers now, and you know the teenagers are the ones that get in trouble, and these boys are out working on the race cars all the time. So appreciate your time. Thank you.
My name is Roger Guttrumson. I live at 1300 Minnesota Street West, which, for everybody who's from out of town, I'm damn well against this sucker. I can identify I'm a Vietnam veteran. I've got the tennisism. We live at the top of the hill on the west side of the fairgrounds. And not only do we have to deal with the traffic going down, but the loud pickups coming up and doing their wheelies. So here we are again, a year later. We were first here to put in the go-kart track. Ferlin said, that's the only thing we're gonna put in. Well, here we are again. Anybody who's from out of town and who's upset at the fairgrounds, they are not in compliance. Your mayor acknowledged that. She read a letter from Kurt Beisel, who has done his research. I suggest as a fair board, who has not done their diligence along with the city council, why wait until the meeting? When did this, are we racing go-karts here, or are we racing dirt bikes? There's not been any clarification. When was this proposed by the fair board to the council? No clarification on it. We're looking at selling if we can and if we have to, because we've got to close our balcony doors for the noise. There's a property right on the west end of the fairgrounds that's been for sale for 3 months. Why isn't that selling? I respect the fairgrounds needs some source of income, but I would suggest you look at alternatives such as selling your land to a developer who will bring in infrastructure and new taxes so we all don't have to pay for this if and when it all goes to court. And believe me, it will, because neither the city nor the fairgrounds have done their due diligence. Why didn't anybody know about this statute that passed in 1996, which precludes this fairground from doing their thing? So y'all need to get down and start doing some business and taking care of your citizens if that's who you respect and who vote you in and out, and get some better businesses in here. You can tell I'm just totally PO'd.
Thank you.
I'm going to make this real quick. David Alvestead, 1701 5th Street, North Cannon Falls here in town. I live northeast of the track. Elevated height. I can hear everything from the fairgrounds. I look forward to the 4th of July when we have fireworks because I get from. So therefore I can also hear the wonderful noise from the track. Thank you. It reminds me of my childhood and I miss it. The non-supporters, do you have kids? Do you have grandkids? I mean, come on. Oh, I did bring it. I did bring it into it. It's if my grandkids lived here in town, they would be part of it. Yes. So, anyways, you are the planning commission. You give advice to the city council. Listen to the community. Do we want a dying community or do we want a living community? Thank you. With that, I'm a shift worker. Typically, I sleep during the races, and I have no problem sleeping with the exception of the nights that I want to go to it. Thank you.
Hi, my name's Brianna Endress. I hate speaking, but 409th Street North here in Cannon. I have 4 kids, 17, 13, 12, and 8. They hate the noise. They all play sports here in Cannon Falls. I have football, I've got soccer, I've got volleyball, I do all of them. None of them interrupt everybody in town like this. It is ridiculous how loud it is, and when they say they end at 10, I was one of the people that called the police in June. At 10:38, I have it on video of how loud it was at my house. That's not 10 o'clock, that's 10:38, and it didn't stop till almost 11. It's ridiculous, it's not fair. I wanna know how long this is gonna be going on, how many weekends this is gonna be going on. I have nothing, and it's interrupting my life. It's not right.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Chad Johnson, and I support the fair and the fairgrounds being used for the racetrack. 320 Larkspur Lane. I think it would bring a lot of out-of-towners to the community, such as the kids from Owatonna. that come and race and hang out with their family. I'm sure for every racer that comes out, we probably have 5 or 6 people of their family that go to local towns. We've got the campgrounds in town. If we start filling those up with people coming in to visit, they come at nighttime, they enjoy the night. The next day, maybe they get up, they go spend some more time in town. That's all I got to say.
Thanks.
I want to add one thing which is very relevant. 2 weeks ago, when you had your Saturday night event, I walked down there. And there's a lot of people from Wisconsin, and yeah, it brings in a lot of business, et cetera, et cetera. But my problem was the young boys that were up here, I saw 2 of them around 8 or 9 years old in their uniforms walking around with a clear plastic glass of beer. I'm not done yet. Ferlin, when we were here 2 years ago, Ferlin said, when I asked about the city and the beer license, oh, we're not going to have any beer vending going on. Well, I asked the young boys, where did you get it? And it wasn't apple juice. They showed it to me, and here's a person in a bus who's got a keg set up, undercover, selling beer for $5 a glass. And I asked the boys, can I taste yours? And it was the same stuff. And they went out and raced the next heat. So you can laugh at it, but what if your young boy gets killed or hurt? Point being, city, take care of it.
All right, thank you.
Jeff Subert, 20235 Rowan Avenue, Welch, Minnesota. I run the track. Beer, come on. Some of this is ridiculous. I'll be honest with you. We'll probably have 12 to 14 races a year. 2 of them are 2-day shows. We have one in the fall, one in the middle of the summer. That's what our schedule has been since we've ever ran this. Otherwise, we are on every other week, if not less than that basis. We usually start in May, and we're done the 3rd week in September. That's our last show. That's usually how we do it. I'm not going to say there's not noise. There is noise. But Ferlin, I went down. We have a race pass. You can see on there when the cars are on the track. We actually have it. It's recorded. There are 2 minutes and some seconds. We have 12 classes, usually 11. We have 3 classes that make noise. So if you divide that up and figure out how they're spread out, we run 2 times for the night. So you have each of those classes goes out twice. No matter what you guys say, you're not hearing this constant. It's not a constant noise, and I'm not denying that there's a little bit of noise, but I'm also saying if you took the decibel readings, that we are well underneath what is legal as far as the state of Minnesota would go. We do bring a lot of family atmospheres. If I ever seen someone selling beer at my track, you can ask anyone that at my track, they would not be there, first of all, and they probably wouldn't like what happened to them, and not a single parent would allow that to happen at my track. We are completely about kids and completely about families. I can't just imagine. But I just want to say, first of all, we were here May 2nd of last year, I believe we were here. And the city attorney said that under Chapter 38, which everyone assumed we were running under, that there was nothing legally that they could do about it. That was brought up at this council meeting before this ever became of anything. That's why nothing has been applied for. That's what was never said. We never heard back from the city council on anything. It went forward we went forward with the track. That's what we was run under. Golden Spike Speedway is another fairgrounds in the city. When they have their 2-day shows,
What city?
Blue Earth. They just built their track. I believe they're like 8 years old. So that was after '96. Their people in the community get together and they actually throw they have a flyer. You could go on their thing, and people in the community get together, the businesses. They have a little thing for them drivers and the families to go, and they go to each business and they might get $2 off or get a treat. They throw a pancake breakfast for the racers that come in. because they do spend money. They are part of the community. We're not a bunch of drunks. We are family orientated, and it always has been that way. Our goal is not to be, we're here to be part of the community. We're here to be an asset, not a drag on the community. You talk about tax revenue. Well, if your small businesses stay in play because of events like this come into your town and spend money in your town, that allows your small businesses in town to also succeed, which that's where you get your tax revenue from. And I believe as a racetrack that we do that, and I believe that we provide a safe atmosphere for kids to come. I charge $5, 5 and under free. You have a family of 4, 2 adults, 1 under 5, you get in for $15, $20 if you all paid. Where can you go in the town of Cannon Falls for $20? If your kids don't like it or you have a bad night with them, we've had people walk out and my mom would say, "Are you leaving early?" They're like, "Yep, we had a great time. The kids are getting fussy, we're going home." For $20, they don't care. They go home, they had a good time for an hour, hour and a half or whatever it is, and you're able to leave and not go to a movie and spend $80 and feel like you got to watch the whole thing. We just really, we basically, we're geared towards the families. That's really what we are. Anyone who has come has enjoyed it. I know that not everyone is into racing, and I do completely understand that. I have 3 kids of my own. I have a special needs son, I have a son that's 20, and I have a son that's 17. We all work at the track. My special needs son, you want to talk about special needs? I actually have a class for special needs that we actually bring out, and they run go-karts on our track. We did it at the other one. We haven't done it yet this year, but they will be here in September to run. We encourage all aspects of life and where you're at, and it's a great place. My son, who's autistic, he thrives at the racetrack with the people around, and he's got a secure environment, and he thrives with the community and with the racers around. I just believe that our goal is not to have big cars. Our goal is not to have anything but what we are running now. It was brought up motorcycles. Yeah, motorcycles. There was a show proposed with the motorcycles, and we shut it down. And that being said, there's a reason we shut it down. It was to be fair to the community. And if you were to accept this and change the language, you would be able to put in your conditional use permit, the permitted things. Since the first night, I will agree, we did run late, and I take full blame for that. It was our first night running. Things just went along a little bit slower than they normally have. Since then, we have not finished past 10 o'clock at night. We moved classes to move the louder classes earlier in the evening, and we're actually still kind of tweaking our schedule as we're doing that right now to take the louder ones and try to bring them a little bit earlier in the evening. We'll continue to do that. As the show gets going, I believe we should be able to get done approximately 9:30 at night with everything. And at that point, if you have 3 classes that make noise and the rest don't, it's kind of hard to say it ruins your whole evening when we have multiple times where there's not noise being run. And I do agree that there should be some kind of a partnership here, and part of the partnership would be basically allowing us to continue to operate. Obviously, we have our 10 o'clock curfew, which we've met every other time besides that, which is a 10 o'clock curfew in the school, in the area here. We do have, since that first night, we have made adjustments. We've added mufflers. We have continued to work to improve our race program. You want to hear about what the track is? I'm just trying to explain why we're here. And I'm sorry I went over my 3 minutes. And we will continue. We are good neighbors. And I believe that for the few that don't support it, we have 84 houses up top, and I think we've heard from 5 or 6. So that's just that area. We haven't heard from anyone else. And I think that Yep, and that petition, I'm not, it is what it is. I'm just saying for people here tonight, for the outlet, we do have people that support it also. And I'll just leave it with, we are family orientated. We do push the family thing. If you give it a shot, I think you'll like it. You want somewhere for your teenage kids and your young kids to go and families to go as a family, we are the place to do it. We'll keep it short and sweet, and I've already ran over, but I appreciate it. And if we had known that this was gonna change because of your aspect of like what you thought we needed to do, this would have been addressed earlier in this process. But after our meeting last spring, I think we kind of thought this wasn't a direction that we were going. So, any questions for me?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Brian Douglas, 1124 Minnesota Street West, Cannon Falls. I'm just basically talking to the Planning Commission because that's what you're here for. After we heard that the racetrack was coming in, I called a realtor. And I wanted to get an idea how that would affect my property. Basically, they came back to me and they have worked at the Alco racetrack. They know what they've done homes around that area. And basically, they have said that, first thing she said, you have to disclose that you have a racetrack in your city limits. For every house that is in the city limits, we'll have to disclose that if they ever want to go up for sale. Now for you, you want to build this new complex developments you have, all those houses that are being built, it has to be disclosed by the realtors or whoever you have trying to sell those homes that there is a racetrack in the city limits, as long as those homes are in the city limits. So you need to take that under advisement because first off, what I was told is that it's a 50-50 gamble that you're gonna get the money you want for your house if there's a racetrack in your city limits. Somebody might buy the house because they're a racetrack enthusiast, which is fine. But if they aren't, the person that might pay the more money might just walk away and say, I'm not gonna live with that. So that's what I want you to know, is that the future is gonna be dictated by this too. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Courtney Roosted, 100 Tamara Lane. I wasn't planning on speaking, but I live right by the fairgrounds, and I think it's a really difficult situation because if you don't live there, you don't know. You don't know how loud it is. So people who are kind of pish-pishing all the noise, it legit is loud. I've had people on my patio, and it only goes 2 minutes, but those 2 minutes we can't talk because we can't hear each other. So we're out there, we're talking, and then we can't, and then we can start up again. But it is very loud, and I am not against the racetrack. I think it's great. It brings a lot of stuff into the community, like we all found out. But I live right there, and it's terrible. And if you don't live there, you cannot understand how loud it is.
Thanks.
Carmen Douglas, I'm at 1124 Minnesota Street West in Cannon Falls. I don't think there should be a racetrack for motorized vehicles within the city limits, especially in a residential neighborhood. I know we've heard a lot of information about 2-minute races and however many minute races there are on the racetrack. The noise from this racetrack prevents us from being outside in the summer when we're shut in Minnesota. We're shut in our houses all winter, and all we want to do is be outside and enjoy our homes and our properties. You can be inside my house with the windows and doors closed. We're in the basement. The TV is turned up to 60, and you can still hear the racetrack. And if you don't believe me, I invite any of you, you can come to my house when they have the races going, and you can hear it. So I don't know what these people, I mean, they're used to hearing loud noises, I get it, but it's too loud. It's too loud for us that live with this racetrack in our backyards. I can't believe that the fairgrounds went ahead and let this thing go through, or the city council let this go through before any permits were given. I mean, I don't understand why nobody has entertained any other ideas about getting any more money for the fair. I get it that they want the fair to continue, and I understand that. I like fairs, but everything is so expensive. Maybe they're going to have to come up with some other options, but I don't think it should be at the rest of our, for us to have to live with this noise just so they can have their races. I think the races, they can have their races, but it needs to be outside the city limits.
Thank you.
I was talking with the racetrack gentleman. Maybe between the city council, the fairgrounds, him, maybe it could put up a fence that would help buffer some of the noise. If it's split 3 ways, it's not gonna be as expensive. But like I say, the other thing too is the traffic. And don't get me, I don't wanna get started on it, but here's the thing. You people don't realize the traffic up there when the fair is on. And what I look at is you've got 2 exits out of that fairgrounds. And when that 4th of July, they're lighting off fireworks up there, what happens if one doesn't go off like it's supposed to? And all those cars are parked on that tier there, and it hits in the middle of it. And all of a sudden now you got 100 cars trying to get out of there in a split second.
We're kind of getting off the route here.
No, this is talking about you guys. You people need to be up there, the city council, and see what goes on, what we deal with. It's like I say, do your job. Be up there. Come on up and see us.
We're the planning commission, not city council.
Well, whatever. But like I say, maybe you can split it with the planning commission, the fairgrounds, and the racetrack gentlemen. A fence to help buffer some of that noise. I like the idea of the kids having their thing. That's great. That's what kids need. But control the noise. That's the main issue. Control the noise. Thank you.
My name's Nate Winberg, 327 Larkspur Lane. Met Jeff about 10 years ago or so. My son used to race. We used to live over in Wisconsin, and I can say it is a very family-oriented, great thing for kids to get into and learn a lot of things. I know I've heard stuff about the future plans. I think there's a lot of options. I think fence possibly, but there's also, as everyone knows, electric cars. There's electric dirt bikes. There's possibility in the future of electric carts. You guys can laugh all you want. I'm just saying, I think there's options as far as doing things about the noise and the sound, and I just think that it'd be good to entertain everybody's ideas. And
Thank you.
Hi. I had a really nice conversation with Ferlin this weekend. My name's Erin McMahon, 612 West Hoffman Street. And I know this racetrack is trying to do everything they can. And Jeff talked about community, and this business is really tearing this community apart. And I want to go on record as saying that as somebody who lives near the fairgrounds with children, I think I speak on behalf of all those that are opposed to it, that we have nothing against children. We don't want our kids to have their faces in computers more often. And we don't think the only other alternative besides racing are drugs or alcohol use or vandalism. It's just really tragic. What really needs to happen here is the emotion needs to come out of it, and we need to get down to black and white. What are the rules? What are the laws? What are the regulations? All right? Last year on May 3rd, when the attorney addressed the council, she was under the misinformation that this was a county fair. And her exact words were, "There is no precedent for it." She was wrong. If I understand the city attorney sitting here right now, I'm sorry, I'm very nervous because this is very emotional. If this text amendment goes forward, then the zoning will change for all of the urban reserve districts. Is that correct? That means if anybody wants to put in a motorized track, they could do so next to residential neighborhoods on the north side of town, on the west side of town, on the east side of town, and on the southwest side of town. Additionally, if I look at the county plat, the urban reserve isn't even where the racetrack is located. There are 2 plats on the county plat that are R2, I believe, residential, and that's where the racetrack is. Perhaps someone could.
I think that's incorrect.
I have a copy of the county plat right here. Someone like to see it? And again, I would like to state that everybody here is thrilled that we have a fair. Everybody here supports the fair. Everybody here supports children. These kids over here are adorable, and we would love to have them race if we didn't have to be bothered by the noise. But I will state that if you download the app, you will also discover that there is not one local child who races at the events. We have someone from Randolph and there's a racer from Welch, but there are no local children. If you can make sure that we don't have to hear it anymore, I'll be the first one to sponsor a local kid. Finally, as the attorney also stated, the track has to fit within criteria in our local zoning ordinances 152057 A through E. And I don't believe that the track can actually, it just doesn't follow A, B, C, D, or E. Thank you.
Thank you.
Andrea Whiting, 327 Larkspur Lane, and I just want to go on record stating that I am for this. I have lived in multiple communities and been involved in multiple various nonprofits that are all for children's activities. I will also state that Cannon Falls is a community that I've paid the highest property taxes. And so I am ecstatic hearing that there's church people coming in just to build a church. What other activities do we have? Because I also came from a small town that I had to leave because there's nothing for kids to do. There's nothing for families to do to raise their children, to provide safe outlets for activities outside of sports. Not everybody's an athlete. I was an athlete. My nephews, they're gearheads. They love motors. I would love for them to have an opportunity to have this racetrack or a dirt bike track here because that's what my property taxes pay for.
My name's Zach. I live at 301 Hoffman Street West. I'm for the track. When it comes to the housing part that people are concerned about, right now me and my wife are looking for houses. There's not many on the market, so even if you think this is going to affect the price of your house, it's not, because it's a very small market and houses are really expensive right now. As for going with the fact of the kids, I would love to have it where my future kids are able to race at this track. So, that's it.
Hello, Barry Underdahl, 301 East Main Street. I've been around this town for 60 years. I know motorsports have been going on at that fairgrounds for longer than I've been alive. This is not just some property that they built a track on. So that facilities supported stock car racing before I was born. And they've had all kinds of different motorsport events there over the years. They have had snowcross there, and they've had mud trucks, they've had truck pulls, they've had all kinds of things. This isn't something new. They're trying to survive. I don't want to see the fairgrounds fail. I don't want to see the buildings fall apart because there's not enough money for everything, because it just isn't. So this is a good way to support the Cannon Valley Fair and the fairgrounds. And me being a resident my whole life, I think it's very important to maintain that facility. It's not going to be much left. If there are other facilities I've been to that have racetracks that got people built around them and they got forced out, more or less. They really limited what they can do there. Well, what built those facilities was racing. I know board members that told me that. I've known them for years. These are people I've become friends with, who said that racing built the fairgrounds. Now I'm talking specifically Casson. That fairgrounds, all those buildings were built by racing money. The money wouldn't have been there if they didn't have weekly racing there. And we're talking full-size cars. Now, I think you should figure out just how loud these carts are and follow the rules. If you checked with the decibel meter, because I've done it myself. I had a full-size race car on that track, and I had a decibel meter myself in that neighborhood. And it was nothing. The highway was louder. So I'm just want you to consider that. Figure out a way to make this go. If my kids were little, they'd be over there. I wish I had this track when I was a little kid. I'd have been there every weekend. So just please consider all the facts, not just the complaints. This is a lot like airport, having houses built around it and then complaining about the runways, you know. So thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Jody Montgomery. I was up here earlier. I'd just like to make a comment. First of all, from how I understood Jeff when he said it was like 12 to 14 days, that equates to 3.5 months of weekends, which we already have shortened summers. Also, I have 4 kids and going on number 11 for grandkids, so all of my kids were extremely active, and not just sports, but other things outside of that. So, and unless you actually live in the neighborhood and you sit there, I mean, I'm not a paying customer going down there and I can leave after an hour because you're gone, you don't hear anymore. But when you're there for the entire event, even though you don't want to be because it's my backyard, I'm hearing it for 4 hours. And yes, they run 2 minutes at a time, but it's 4 hours worth of 2 minutes at a time. And you want to talk about the fairgrounds? Yes, they need to make money, but the citizens are what's important in this community. And that's what I think needs to be taken into account.
Thank you. Second call, anyone wishing to address the
Just, we gotta, obviously, everybody's got stuff to do. We can't keep this going all night, and I respect you guys and having to make this decision. It's gonna be tough for everybody. And no matter how it goes, it's gonna be tough and someone's gonna be offended. Facts is what we want. Don't bring stuff up. I heard about a tractor pull ripping, well, that happened during the fair, but we're supporting fair. Let's talk about facts about the go-kart track. Once again, depending on who you are. I've talked to people up in that neighborhood who said, yeah, I can hear it. It's no different than a neighbor mowing their yard. It's 30 minutes out of 4 hours of the loud carts. That broke up. That's the minutes. If you guys want to go on Race Pass and pay the subscription to it, you can look at it yourself and track the 3 classes that are going to make noise. And that's where this comes from. This is a site that covers racing all over the country. So you can go on and track any track that's on it. The facts are the facts. I know it's passion. I think people are pushing stuff. We come here with facts. That's what I came here. That's what I'm giving you. And that's all we're doing. As far as house costs, that don't even come into play because somebody might buy this house and somebody don't like this house. That has nothing to do with whether there's a track there or not. Once again, that thing has had raced cars on it. Full-size cars raced there, like Barry said, in the 60s and 70s. So it's not a new track in a sense because there was race cars on that track. And there's still motor events going on, and there always has been. So just want to say, let's talk about facts. Fireworks, blowing up cars. I mean, where's that coming from? What's that got to do with any of this? I'm dumbfounded. Beer at the track. I've been there. There ain't no beer there. I mean, come on. Let's talk facts. That's all I ask.
Thanks, Ferland.
One last time, taxpayers, people that live in the city limits of Cannon Falls. And why are there not more people here tonight who are opposing? It's because most of the people in town could not believe that this actually unfolded without being stopped and are putting the care of their livelihood, their summers, their home, their property values in your hands and trust you will make the right decision. This should not go forward. The racetrack should not exist. And I do hope you do not amend the text.
Thanks, Julie. Third and final call?
Just one more thing, if I could. If I did the math correct, if you want to know the noise, just the 3 classes that make noise, the rest of them, there's no way you can hear up in the houses, I'll guarantee it, because I've checked. It's 15% of the time when we're running for 4 hours. If you do the math, 15% of the time you can hear the cars. So for 85% of our races going on for 4 hours, you can't hear anything running. So if you want to put in perspective, and that's that's facts. Figure it out. Do the math. I just did the math. That's 15% of the time you can hear cars on the track out of 4 hours. So I'm just wanting to know the facts too, and we are willing to work with the city council and come up with a plan that works for everyone, whether it be whatever, limiting nights that we can race as far as how many a year, so we have all those in place. Our goal is not to make this a weekly race. Our goal is not to make it expand into anything other than what we've done for the last year, this year, and what I've done for the last 5 years at the other track. I have no intention of doing so, and like I said, we're willing to work. And if you think about the time you can hear, 15%. I mean, if you span that over 4 hours. So just wanted you to, those are cold hard facts of what you can hear during the races. And I'm not saying you can't hear my PA system for them talking, but as far as the cars go, I come up here and visit friends, and there's a ball game going on. You hear that for blocks away from the ballpark. All you hear is the PA going. I mean, I'll be honest. I mean, if you want to talk about that, I'm just saying 15% is a number that is a legitimate number that you can hear the cars run. And if the wind's blowing, you're probably not even going to hear some of that. If it's blowing the other direction, you're going to hear a little bit more. I just, once again, we are here as a friend of the community, someone that wants to come and help grow the community and provide a spot for families to go and for cheap entertainment and somewhere for people to come and hang out. That's all I got. Thank you so much.
I'm Brianna Cohn, 40580 Bow Trail, near Strand, Minnesota. I'm a local realtor of 9 years, so if anybody wants to chat afterwards, let me know. I'll be outside with cards.
I'm Jan Fennern, and I don't want to sell my house. This is where I built a house, and this is where I want to stay. To the gentleman who said that someone was at the races, they'd had enough, their kids wanted to go home and go to bed. My kids want to go to bed too. They are home, but they can hear the racetrack. They get to leave and go home. We don't. We have to stay.
Thank you.
Hi, I'll make this quick. Jim Hoffman, 917 West Park Street. So many people have kind of stole my thunder, but I would like to ask a couple of questions. The one thing I want to know about for like the permit and that kind of thing is, I've noticed that down there, there's overnight camping as well, a lot of times, and what about the hygiene for that? I have questions on who carries the insurance policy down there and who pays for it. And was the track and the design, and the construction, was that done under the oversight of a civil engineer? What does that track look like? My question is, what happens if somebody gets severely hurt down there, or God forbid, somebody gets killed? Who's on the ticket for that, is what I'd like to know. I had a lot of other things, but so many people did a lot better job of talking about it than I did, because I did have some misinformation as well. One of the things I would like to say is that this public hearing was a long time in coming. There's been no public hearing up till this point. We were just told this is going to happen. There's nothing you can do about it. And very boisterous by some of the board members, by the way. That's all I have. Thank you. I do have one last thing, excuse me. We've been talking a lot about the noise. Steve lives down near me. I live a mile away, almost 8 blocks. And on August 10th, I could hear that second class very clearly. Granted, it was every 2 minutes or whatever it was. That's a mile away. That's too far. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Shauna Chambers, and I live on the east side of town, 105 East Minnesota. My dad lives on the west side, 1221 West Minnesota. So he hears the races up there. We like the race noise. We don't mind it. It doesn't bother us. It doesn't keep us from sleeping up there. It doesn't keep us from talking to each other, that's for sure. I think it's just perspective, really. I think change is the nature of life. I think if you want to grow, change is inevitable. And this community does not have very many things for children, let alone families, to do. We went down there and enjoyed the races a couple weeks ago. And it was awesome. I mean, I would say if you haven't actually visited the track, maybe don't knock it till you try it. I think it's amazing what these kids are doing. I think supporting children is very important. I think in our town, we don't have enough things outside of sports to support children in. It's going to grow our community along with the church. I mean, everything you're saying yes to is growing our community, is bringing in more revenue. Glory to God for passing that church thing, though. Thank you. But the racetrack is just another form of growth for our town. If people can't handle the noise, I mean, it's not every day. It's not even every weekend. There's lots of things to complain about. I guess you're always going to find something, right? So I guess I would just say I'm for it. I think that it should be approved.
Thank you.
My name is Brendan Newville. I live at 2280 290th Street, Clear Lake, Wisconsin. I've been racing at Jeff's tracks for 4 or 5 years now. He's always done a great job supporting kids. Same goes for the church thing. They have a very strong passion, want their church in session, and we have our racetrack. That's what we do. And you guys have your kids who do their thing. We do ours. We all have a certain passion, and I think that this track should stay. And another thing is there's a track up northern Minnesota, Princeton, in Mille Lacs County. They are in these, almost these same exact, I don't know what the number of years the track's been around, but they are in the same boat. There is a highway right behind the pit area, same as the fairgrounds here in Cannon Falls. And there are houses there that are closer to the track than there are here in Cannon Falls. That's all I got.
Thank you. I'm going to repeat the third and last call. Hearing none, I'm going to close it. Okay, committee, do your thing.
Do we have anybody here from the Fair Board?
Ferland.
You're on the Fair Board?
I am on the Fair Board.
I understand that, I've always had questions about this, that the Cannon Valley Fair was originally put together as an agricultural society fair, is that correct?
That is correct.
Is it still?
From our knowledge and everything we've done, checking with the regional fair and everything else, yes, we are.
Is that basically the same thing, that the same society that deals with the county fairs and the state fair?
Correct. We're members of it, voting rights to it, receive money from it.
And so you're a nonprofit?
We're nonprofit.
And is the fair losing money every year?
I would say,
Based
I
on
wouldn't
what
say, no, I mean, no, we're not losing money, but what we're making is very little. By the time we pay,
It's not going backwards.
not completely backwards, it's almost a break even to just a slight profit maybe.
So because it's a nonprofit, can you run a for-profit business on the facility?
There's two parts to the fair.
There's two parts to the fair.
Correct. You got a 501(c) and you got the fair, the Cannon Valley Fair Association. The 501(c) is what businesses can donate to the fair as friends of the fair.
I'm a little confused about that. You know that the reason that the fairground was located there originally, and I've lived here all my life.
I'm only 54 and it's been here for 109 years, so I
should be-
can't tell you that.
Okay, the original reason, of course, was the Agricultural Society.
Correct.
In what, 1915. They picked that location because it is a natural amphitheater. They didn't have grandstands. They sat on a hillside, and it was a natural amphitheater in this area. And I can guarantee you it still is. And it amplifies everything from that valley, and it goes up the valley. Now, it's true that you can have different decibels, high decibels, but the frequencies make a big difference. And I'm pretty knowledgeable about that. I've got a nice pair of hearing aids here. They do make a huge difference, and I can tell you that it does go to the noises do go through all the way up to the east side of town, or at least to West Main where I live. But I'm curious, you receive monies from Goodhue County, is that correct?
Correct.
Tax monies every year.
You know, I
Yeah,
don't know.
You're not a county fair, but you get
Here's the
county-
deal, I'm not gonna answer all the financial stuff.
You get county funds.
You get county funds,
So,
just like the county fair does.
which is kind of interesting, I think. So you also accept donations from people?
They become friends of the fair, which they basically can be at a different level of what they get with that Friends of the Fair. We'll even take your money for Friends of the Fair if you want to give it.
What's it? Yeah, I know you would. Well, I know that 50 years ago when I was younger, yes, I very much enjoyed the stock car races at the fairgrounds. 50 years ago, those 80-plus homes to the south of the fairgrounds didn't exist. And there was a lot of woods in between. And they were fun races. They're a lot of fun. I'd love to have a go-kart too myself, but I like motors. But, and I can see, you know, where the interest would be for the kids and stuff. But the fact is that Cannon Falls has evolved. And I'm not really sure that the Fair Board understands that. We've evolved. We've got probably 80, plus buildings up there along the side of it, up on the hill, up on the bluff. And they're taxpayers to the city. Now, I don't know how much income the city receives from the fair or how much income the city receives from your profitable businesses that run there. I'm confused about that. These are just some basic questions I just have gone through my mind here thinking about all of this because I do see it as a huge asset to the community. The fair is a huge asset to the community. And we have to be sensitive to the community. And let's face it, you know, in 1915, they didn't have amplification either. You know, they just, whoever could talk the loudest was heard. So things have really evolved. And so I've got some pretty interesting questions. I don't know that the city benefits, the city itself benefits from any real estate taxes or income taxes, do they? We don't receive anything from the, so you got a problem with me there. And it's always been that way. It's been there 50 years, fine. But when you're starting to affect the way the city evolves, then you have to change your own views. And I feel like you're locked into something that maybe isn't appropriate for this city. It's sounds like a lot of fun. I'd love to do it, you know. I like things that go fast.
Well, we could get you in one.
Yeah, I'll tell you, I like to go 150 miles an hour. And I do, about 10 feet off the ground. But, or did in my life. But, you know, I just see that there's an insensitivity to the city from the fairgrounds. And tell me, are all your board members citizens of Cannon Falls?
Not all of them. Most
Are
of
they
them.
citizens of Goodhue County?
Absolutely.
They're all citizens of Goodhue County?
Yes.
Okay. Just curious. I don't know the makeup of your... And I assume that you hire agencies to do the land, and or do you do all that to mow the property and keep it up?
We mow it all. We take care of everything
And
ourselves.
I know you guys don't get anything for that. I know that.
Nope.
That's great. I understand that. But I just really think that your board needs to be more sensitive to the community's needs. And I really don't, I don't know if I'm hearing that. First of all, I'm wondering how this got started. And what, because you're under the, you're still under the regs from the Agricultural Society, if, I assume there's a huge book of rules with that society.
Too much for my small brain to read.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure there is. I'm just curious about these things. So that's all I had, but I just really, I think it's a wonderful thing for the kids to do. I think it's a great asset to the community, the fair itself is, and there are ways that the board maybe needs to be a little more considerate of the city. And I'm not sure that I'm hearing that.
I think we've made adjustments to what we do with the track.
Well,
to take in considerations, we are open to listening to the neighborhood. We've done that, trying to listen to some people talk about it.
Well, you're not endangering your situation with the Agricultural Society by doing this, are you?
No.
You're positive about that?
As far as I know.
Okay.
I'm
Well,
not
how
an
about
attorney.
the county? How about the county? You gonna get their funds if you continue to have a profitable business there?
I think it's two separate entities.
Okay, well, I don't understand that. Someone will have to explain that to me.
Yeah, I don't know. We gotta have ways to bring money in to fix buildings. The funds you get from the Goodhue County isn't enough. If someone has a really good idea over there to bring in funds and willing to drive it, we're open to it. I've heard different things,
But at this point, the county, or the fair is not in the red. It's still profitable.
We're about as close to the red as you can be.
Well, I understand.
And if we had to hire someone to do the mowing, we'd probably be in the red.
I understand nonprofits. Okay, thank
So-
you very much for your time.
Any other questions?
And follow up on Bruce's first. The Cannon Valley Fair Association Incorporated is registered as a not-for-profit in the state of Minnesota.
I'm not the one to answer this. I'm not.
Okay, well, you
We
said
got
there were
a,
two
we got a
different
501c.
What's the name of that one?
That's for the Friends of the Fair. Robin, are you in there? She could probably give you a better answer on that. The Cannon Valley Fair is what we run under.
The accountant does it. I just do the books, but we have an accountant that manages all of our taxes. They did start doing storage. I don't know when. Somebody else might know when the storage started, and that was winter storage to help fund the fair and the buildings. So most of this is for all the things that we do are trying to get funding to make sure we can maintain our buildings, get the grandstand, back to where it should be. We had an engineer, we had to pay an engineering firm to come in because we don't want anything to happen to that, so we have work to do.
That's all public information. You have to publish that information.
Yeah, so we do go and do all of those
Yeah.
things. So the funding and the storage is all for that. So we do pay an unrelated business income tax on those funds as part of what we do.
But that money goes to the Cannon Valley Fair Association.
The Cannon Valley Fair.
Okay. And the Friends of the Fair is a separate organization.
Yes. I think almost all county fairs all have the same setup.
Okay.
There's the fair, and then they have the Friends of the Fair. You'll see that at Goodhue
You
County.
said county
and-
fair. We're not a county fair.
No, but we're set up in the same way because we were originally under, as an agricultural association.
And they handle all that.
And, yeah, so it's still set up that way.
Okay. Just clarification on that.
Yeah. Anything else for me?
Too much already. Good?
I got something. So is this, my understanding of this is that a lot of stuff was bypassed as far as planning meetings and whatnot. Was that because of the fair being part of an ag society?
That was part of, yes, that was correct. That's what it all started out as moving along with it. When it came out, we came in here for a meeting to discuss the track being built. That was last year. We talked about that. There was people opposing it at that time that was here. Everybody spoke. As far as knowing that it was this urban reserve ground, like I say, I didn't know that. As far as everything we knew from years ago, members of the fair, that kind of sat by itself. And, shame on me, didn't look at a zoning map, but I still don't understand how, number one, that little piece ends up as an urban reserve when it's supposed to be 10 acres and that one's only 8.9 acres. Or how it got put in there, when did it get put in there? And even if it isn't in there, there's other zoning, obviously, that falls into the fairgrounds, which, like I say, the senior people way before me, it was always understood the fair stood by itself. It also was that way with somebody who worked for the city full-time, similar position as Zach had made that comment, that that's just the way the city's always handled the fairs, just let them kind of do their thing so they survive. So, my fault. We'll take the blame, we'll take the beating on that. It wasn't on purpose, it was what we had heard from the past and people we've talked to.
So, does the Goodhue County Fair belong to the Ag Society?
Correct.
And so if if what you're saying is true and you're still an ag society, why are we talking about this?
I feel there's a difference on the city's level, maybe at this point saying we're not, because it does say in there that it's one county fair, but what it does also state is associations. We're Cannon Valley Fair Association. It can have one county fair, it means you can't have two county fairs in one county.
In the and my information may not be correct, because I looked into this a little bit before I got here tonight, and what I read in some of the Minnesota statutes, when it talks about county agricultural societies formation and powers, generally, or specifically, it says an agricultural society or association may be incorporated by citizens of any county or two or more counties jointly, but only one agricultural society shall be organized in any county. So is that what's, do we have one in Goodhue for the county fair? And then does that verbiage mean that technically we're not allowed to have one via the state?
That is
that what's sort of driving this?
That's what turned it this way, but we still believe that we're part of the Ag Society. And at this point, everything we found out from higher up, we get voting rights to it. We receive money from it. Usually if you're not part of something, you don't get voting rights. So I would say that that's telling us we're part of something. Okay. So, and I think that was probably in place probably way before some of the verbiage that we're reading, and we're probably grandfathered in. Probably today, there wouldn't be a new fair started up that's not a county fair that would be part of it.
Right.
But in 109 years, there's probably language somewhere along the line that allows us to stay as that, and that's why we got voting rights.
And we don't want to endanger that.
Correct.
Community does not want to endanger that. They want it. They like the fair. It's great
Correct.
for the community.
Correct.
What I'm asked,
Neil,
my question is, are you endangering that?
You know, fairs, whether it's county fairs or any other fair within this state, are doing many different things to raise money to keep the fairs alive. They're not just living on just the county fair.
But we're not a county fair, and that's
No,
the trick.
I'm just saying, there's other fairs within here that, we're not the only fair that's not a county fair within the state of Minnesota. What I'm saying is fairs have to do other things.
They do, but
They can't
we don't
live on-
want to, if you're not part of the agricultural society because you don't adhere to their regs, that's what I'm worried about.
Well, I think we are in the rights to do what we're doing to adhere to it, because part of it is we're not gonna have a barn for horse shows or cows over there if we ain't coming up with more ways, because the horses and cows don't pay for
I
everything.
know, and the county helps subsidize that some, but yeah, you can see my point though.
I can see your point.
I don't want to see the fair go away.
Well, that's what this whole purpose is we don't want the fair to go away. We're here fighting to keep the fair here.
But my point is, maybe the board's insensitivity to community might affect that.
Well, right now, from what I'm seeing, it seems like there's more people in favor of doing this
I'm not
than
seeing
against.
that.
You're
Well,
not seeing that?
I'm not seeing that, no.
Okay.
I mean, I see a lot of things that are interesting, but I don't see a lot of an evolution within the fair that relates to the community.
Well,
That-
and-
which is supposed to be evolving, which
So-
is evolving, it's
So
bigger.
if we're gonna go by that,
Yeah.
and you got houses who have built closer to a fairgrounds that have been there since 109 years. So
I
at what,
guarantee you 50 years ago, those houses weren't there.
that's my point. So now they've built closer to it, you accept what's there. It'd be no different than me building a house down by the crap plant down here and have to smell it and say you can't have that anymore. If you move closer to something, it's there, and you accept what can go on there.
And that's true, but as long as you don't endanger the livelihood of the fair.
I don't
by-
think,
By the things that you do, you have to stay within the regs that I'm sure that the Agricultural Society puts out to you.
well, I guess that's, as far as the Egg Society, I don't know enough about it. We're not gonna hire an attorney to come explain it all. It doesn't make sense when we're being told from the top of the regional fair and stuff that we are, so
But you need to
it's,
protect yourself somehow.
and I think we are protecting ourselves. We're not gonna lose it from
Well,
being part of it.
Well, you're the chairman of the board?
No.
Oh, okay.
But we do have other fairs around that have board members that,
Do you have anybody legally within the board that would understand these things?
our board,
Yeah,
no,
that has legal training?
not legal training. No fair probably carries someone with legal training.
I'm sorry to bug you about this, but
Oh, you
I
can
don't,
bug
I,
me.
I
It
just
ain't gonna
don't
hurt
want
my
to
feelings.
see, I just don't want to see something, happen to the fair. And that's what I worry about.
I think that's what's in all of our minds of the best interest of what's going on.
But that's not what I've heard tonight.
Okay,
Okay, let's move on.
All right, I'll stop. I'll quit. I can get pesty. I'm sorry.
the real reason we're here tonight, though, is to look at whether or not we want to modify the urban reserve zoning and allow motorized kart racing in urban reserve, which would apply not only to this particular little shot of green on the zoning map, but all around. Correct?
Correct.
And so then I think the question for us is, we all may love the fair, we all might want the fair to survive, but the real issue is, do we allow motorized kart racing in urban reserve zoning? Correct?
Correct.
But the conditional use that would follow
Yeah, with all the.
would help with
with all
other
the-
areas.
Right, but I mean,
So,
because we have other urban reserve areas.
correct.
And that means that they would be open to having motorized
As-
go-karts also, if somebody else wanted to come into town and do it.
Right, if they met your
And-
conditional use, right?
Correct. Yeah, with all the stuff. So I think that's the question we deal with tonight.
Correct. Thank you.
And you can have your private conversations
Yeah,
after
it's the
meeting.
Norwegian in me, I'm afraid.
But I believe with where our kart track sits, probably most of your urban area wouldn't give you a 700-foot distance from housing and this and that. There's a good chance it don't meet that, which could be a conditional use.
And it also means, though, in the, going forward, if we annex more acreage into the city, that could also become urban reserve, and therefore, I mean, we could have a developer come in, have us annex a thing, and the next thing turn around and say, go-karts.
It could, or you could even put it, can't you put a conditional use saying that this is for a fairgrounds purpose? And that would lock it down.
You gotta change the text amendment for the
Well,
urban reserve. We
It-
can't, specifically say it's for the urban reserve in the fairgrounds.
No, the text language changes, and then what I'm saying is the conditional use would be for the fairgrounds, not the,
About the rest of the urban reserve.
that's how, you-
That'd be a lawyer-type question.
Yeah.
If one can restrict that in such a way that no one else would be able to apply.
So I think the question is, can a conditional use permit be limited to a single user?
Yes.
And the answer is no.
That's I thought we had.
Ferlin, can I ask a question here?
Yep.
So I'm just following up on some of Jim's questions because they're what I had. Was a camping permit pulled when people were camping down there? Did you go through the city to do all that stuff, or do you not have to because you're a fair board, or how'd that work?
Nope, someone obviously from community or whatever called, and it started with the demolition derby on Memorial Madness, which as a fairgrounds, we didn't know that you needed anything like that. So then the state reached out to us, and every time there's been a camping event, we've had to get a permit. Whoever's gonna run the event has to get the permit. They're allowed 2 a year.
Okay.
So that was all taken care of, no different than when, Amy Klobuchar and the bike thing was here, they pulled the permit for the tenting down there. So
Who's on the hook if something happens down there? Do you guys have an insurance policy that covers it, or is it the city, or who?
No, it's, so for the track, Jeff carries insurance to cover the track, and then ours would probably be a backup policy behind that, just like any other event down there. If there's an event down there, they gotta carry insurance, and that's required.
Mr. Chair, I think that some of the questions are going beyond the scope of what I'm looking for. Commissioner Johnson was on with regards to, again, the question is whether or not to allow this as a conditional use within the zone, looking at consistency and compatibility, and then if it's allowed, then look at the conditions that would be attached to it.
So my biggest concern is if we allow the text amendment, it's not just for the track at the fairgrounds, it's for any urban reserve area in the city of Cannon Falls, and I don't want to go down that road. We're, as a committee and going forward as a council, we have to look out for the benefit of the future of the citizens of Cannon Falls, not for just this one specific thing. You know, they could say, okay, we can just this once. Let's just use that for an example. Well, just this once, it's just for this, but it's not, because somebody else is always going to come in and say, that's a good idea. We can do this over here because of what they did over there, and there's no way really we can stop the snowballing effect, whether that would happen or not. But that's my opinion, and that's how I feel about it.
Everybody, I mean, I don't know what to say on it. What are we gonna do with the rest of the fair period? As if we're gonna go after one thing, are we going after the whole fair? Is that the consensus that I'm pulling here? Because we're not gonna survive as a fair. And if we're worried about one motorsport event, that we're limiting the noise and doing our best to meet the community to help us out, what's next? That's my question. What's next? Because we gotta survive. And the fairs.
And you've survived for 100 and how many years, and all of a sudden you're not gonna be able to do it without
I
this
don't know.
track.
Have you been there, seen the buildings?
Yeah, I go every year.
Okay, well, there's a cafe that used to be, do you remember that? Yeah, well, that's barely hanging on to legs. Some of the barns, pretty bad shape. Come on in there and look at them up close.
But it's because whether this track is a go or no-go is gonna depend on what happens to the fair moving forward?
No, we gotta come up with other income sources.
Yes.
And I can ask 100 people, does anybody got a great idea for it? It's an outdoor venue. We don't have anything that can sustain, all the barns are cold, there's nothing for heat. What other ideas do people have? I don't know. We've kicked every idea around. It's hard to get, you can get a lot of participation with a race event. I'll guarantee you that a lot of other stuff over there, like a craft show or whatever you want, isn't gonna be a big participant showing. That's what we need. We need people there. We need the place to be used. You know, we gave up when the park was flooded, someone needed a spot to go for a graduation party. We gave them the barn to use, right? I mean, The fair is willing to work with lots of people, but we also got to come up with ways to fund things.
I understand that.
You know, we now have, you know, when you say that we don't pay for the property tax and all that, I can respect that, but now all of a sudden we came with a water bill that started out as $1,100 that was gonna be there every month, and we've never faced that before. We got 50% of it waived because of storm runoff. Well, they.
Mr. Chair, again, this is going off from
Yep,
what the
yep,
the
I
charge
understand.
for the commission is. It's
Okay.
to look at whether or not
Yep.
to change, do a zoning text amendment, not the water bill.
Okay. Okay. So, committee?
You done beat me up?
Yeah, for now.
I have just one more legal question. If it is required now for the racetrack to have this change in the zoning, why wasn't it required a year ago?
Text amendment.
Yeah, well, change in the zoning.
I will let you know that I was not involved in that aspect and wasn't prepped, but from what I'm reading in the staff report and my understanding is that there was misinformation with regards to what the fair actually was. What I'm hearing is that it doesn't fall under the society statutes. It falls under, it's a organized nonprofit organization, which is different than the society itself. And so the society, if you fall under the chapter 38 of the Minnesota statutes, you're exempt from city zoning. And if you're not within chapter 38, then the city zoning would apply. And that, I'm assuming that was the change. You probably know more about that. So I see city administrator is shaking his head yes.
The Fair Board just said they are part of the Ag Society, though. Have we definitely determined that that's not the case?
Well, what I heard was, well, first of all, I think the determination made by when staff looking at it found out with more information, it sounds like that they are a Minnesota nonprofit corporation, which is different than being a part of a society under this Chapter 38. Chapter 38 doesn't require you to register as a corporation with the city, and plus it also says with a society, there only can be one in the county, and it sounds like we have one already, which is not the fair in question.
Thank you.
Can I make a comment there? I'd like to address that. So it's like two businesses, and you keep saying the corporation, it's like two businesses, where Ag Society covers the whole fairgrounds and everything else. The corporation portion of it is to accept businesses' donations. It's two separate things. The track is part of the Ag Society, just like the horse track, just like everything else out there, that's the Ag Society portion.
Well, we seem to be having a conflict in it being an ag society or not.
Correct. And that goes back to last year. You know, we moved along. No one stopped it that it was not an ag society. That didn't come up to play till just recently. And now there's a lot of money built into this because we were operating and we were let to be operated under this Chapter 38 where we didn't have to follow any of this. And now it's being thrown on us. There's a lot of money spent out there to bring this in here. We were going to do this text change to be good partners with the city and work with everybody. That was our idea. That's what we're here for.
So if you're an ag society, in theory, you don't have to do that.
Correct.
So why are we doing this?
That's my point. Why are we doing it?
Because you're not an ag society.
We are. That's what our stance is. We are.
Then I think this goes back to the commissioner's point that where it says in the statute you can only have one in the county. and it seems that there's more than one operating in the county. And so either the other county fair is in trouble, not trouble, but the county fair is jeopardized, or this fair is jeopardized. That was your point, right?
Well, I guess I couldn't find a business registration for the Goodhue County
Yeah.
Fair because I didn't know what its proper name was. I did find one for the Cannon Valley Fair Association, which is registered as a nonprofit corporation domestic.
Okay. No, that makes sense. I mean, a 501c, you need, in order to have federal tax designation of 501c3, you have to be a nonprofit in Minnesota.
But that didn't tell me, is there a different business registration for like the Goodhue County Fair?
I don't know because I did not look into that. Again, as I said, what the commission is doing here today is decide whether or not to allow this as a conditional use. If that is then allowed with conditions, application will be made, and at that point, a deeper investigation can be made of whether or not the fair is subject to the requirement of a conditional use. But as of right now, it's just a matter of is it going to be allowed or not with regard to it as a conditional use.
Okay. Clear as mud?
Yeah, I guess I'd just like to go on record. I'm frustrated how we got here myself. It's not clear. It's not very clear. It's become more clear over the night, but go back a year ago, why it didn't seem like we were working together. The fair should have been working with us. We should have been working with the fair. Good stewards, all that stuff should have happened. I can sympathize with the residents, the taxpayers that have all the noise issues that probably went to that meeting. I just don't know how we got here and why, now it's to a boiling point, I guess. And that frustrates me. I feel like it should have been taken care of back then. I guess some new facts have come to light, but it's unfortunate because, like you said, money has been put in there, and you have all these supporters that really enjoy it. I used to go to Fairgrounds or to races when I was a kid. Fond memories, all that stuff. Love the fair. I think end of the day, I sympathize with the taxpayers and the noise situation. I live on the northeast side of town. I can hear it from my house too. It's a problem in my opinion, and I don't think it's consistent with what the city wants to be. Now, that being said, this is the planning commission. I do want to work with the fair board. I think having these conversations, maybe even in a private setting, if you just want to set up meetings, stuff like that, those are good situations to have. It's only going to bring out those good ideas that you want. I guess that's just how I feel on it, so.
And I'm with you. It was over a year ago we were in here, and nothing was.
And I would say a year ago too, that my understanding was that was city council. I wasn't here a year ago. Jesse wasn't here a year ago. Bruce isn't on city council. So it's unfortunate the way it evolved, I guess, is what I'm saying.
Correct. And at that time, the attorney sitting here for the city wrote the Chapter 38 and basically said there wasn't a whole lot with the fair that could be done.
That's when we were told you were an ag society.
Yes, and we pursued it because your attorney had said that. So we just did what we could.
Here's what I want to ask you. Is there a way that we can just table this, put some more information together, and maybe get together with Ferlin and iron a few of these wrinkles out before we make any hard decisions tonight?
The answer is yes, but my understanding is from the city administrator is that we may be have certain, and Zach you can chime in too, but we may be under certain time restraints with regards to the 60-day rule in making a decision. So we would need an extension of that. I request that, you can make it on you can do a indefinite extension on the record.
Can
But
we
we
do
would
that
need,
now, or do we gotta do that as part of the city council?
well, no, we can do, you can table anything, you can table items if you want. But I think we would need an extension, and then he would need to submit something in writing. Do you know where we are with what our time frame is on that? Yeah.
Date-wise?
Well, he's going to look for when decisions have to be made. And this, for anybody who doesn't know on the commission, you may know that, the city council, the city has only so many days to make a decision. And so that's what 1599 is that we have 60 extended out to 120 days to make a decision from the time of a complete application.
July 30th. So 60 days from July 30th.
But we can request an extension.
You can 120.
So
Let's just do it anyway.
Okay. I guess what I would say is that if you're looking to do a table on it, maybe have the applicant make a waiver of 1599. They can rescind that waiver if they want. They can extend it out. Say you normally get 120 days. They could say, well, I'll give you an extra 30 days to get it done, or however it is, however you want it to be done, or another 60 days, and then follow up. If the applicant wants to do that, then follow up is just an email or writing saying what he's going to do. And if you do that, then I feel comfortable with tabling to the next planning commission meeting.
Are you okay with that?
Here's my
Yes.
question though. If we table that, how many more races are going to happen between now and that table?
Jeff, do you know?
I've got a race scheduled for this coming Saturday, and then we're off until we only have 4 races left for the whole year.
So I guess my question would be, if we table it, and the people that are having issue with it right now, are they going to have to deal with it they're going to have to deal with it till we make a decision, right? Is kind of what I'm
I
thinking.
really think we should vote on this.
Yes.
I guess I would make a motion to deny the text amendment as written, or the zone ordinance as written.
I would second it.
Motion second, motion by Novak, second by Emma to deny the text amendment. Is there any further discussion?
And just to be clear, this is to make a recommendation to the city council for denial. This is not the actual denial itself.
That's correct.
Correct?
Any further discussion?
Does this have to have a findings of fact attached to it?
The record itself would be enough for the findings itself that you can take to the council. What I recommend, if it goes to the council obviously can make their decision on how they want, and they can read the record that makes the findings. And then it would at the council level would require a written resolution if there was denial of it.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries.
So what's the next step then? I'm not sure where you guys are going or what. So the city council meeting, this next.
This is just recommendations.
It'll go to the city council on September 3rd.
And this will be part of it'll be on their agenda.
This is advisory only.
Yep, yeah.
And city council makes the actual decision.
Yeah.
So their recommendation is to deny.
Yep. Okay. All right, thank you.
Thanks, Fred.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
By Fox, second by Novak to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
We're adjourned.